Everybody, welcome to another episode of the Break the Rules stream. I am your humble, extremely humble host, Lev Polyakov at LevPo on Twitter. And once again, before we begin, give us a like, give us a subscription, of course, share this with all the people you know, because we really do have to get the word out with the amazing individuals we have here for you today. Of course, we got the Sultan of Swing himself, Giovanni Pennacchietti, coming at you live. We got Average Centrist at Centrist Average on Twitter and Giant Geo on Twitter. Don't forget that. And we have our guest of honor today, Alex Kaschuta, coming back with us once again. The great Alex Kaschuta, back from the mission. I'm not really sure what else to call it. The mission of the birthing person. I think that's an adequate description for that. And we have, for the first time, Mary Harrington of Unheard fame, an amazing writer. It's a great pleasure to have both of you here. And let's just get started right now. Let's start with just the backdrop, just how Mary Harrington came to be who Mary Harrington is, as well as your beautiful chickens. And also, I love that Pokemon-like bird avatar that you have as well. So I would love to find out what that is all about. Let's get started.
Well, I don't know. I mean, my whole life story is A, not very interesting, and B, takes a long time to tell. So I don't know if you want to be any more specific. Why don't we start with the Pokemon-like bird avatar?
Yes.
That has a very, very straightforward backstory. In that, when I started out on my more recent incarnation on Twitter, which has kind of morphed into Mary Harrington as currently is, I started out anon, and I created my account with the sole express intention of taking the piss out of the Remain campaign in late 2015, because they were just so ridiculous. I don't know, I just got bored of taking the piss out of the Remain campaign after not very long, because it's just too easy. And besides, and people took my, it was too easy to do it. So I got bored of doing that and started tweeting about other stuff as well. And then, sometime fast forward a little way, I think my first ever reply guy, I shouldn't call him that. He's a very, very nice guy. He's at David Awfulbot on Twitter. Nice guy. Give him a follow. I said I stuck the bird avatar on there just because I needed something, and then I happened to let slip on one day that I wore spectacles. So he took it and photoshopped a pair of spectacles on. And I was like, yeah, that's me. Oh my god! So now it's me. Now it's just me. I mean, it's kind of accurate, a bird with specs on.
And
that is literally just me.
And Lisa Bode mentioned if it's Pidgey, it does look a lot like Pidgey, so much that I used this screenshot from Pokemon instead of Pidgey, putting in your avatar. Wild Mary Harrington appeared. I don't know. Have you ever played Pokemon? I know that this is not technically your specific generation, but I am curious. Have you ever delved into the Pokemon world?
I have not. I'm many things, but I'm not really a gamer. And although I know the general idea, I've never played Pokemon, so I can't really comment on that. But I'm glad that it resonates with people on a subject that I know absolutely nothing about.
Well, maybe this is going to change today. We'll see. But speaking of gamers, the conference that you were attending, and I believe you were also speaking at, it had people that you would describe as being conservative Inc. with a C, as well as conservative Inc. with a K. Would you also classify the gamer culture with their gamer words and other gamer-related things within that particular category of the right? And I would love to hear from Alex as well regarding that.
I mean, my sense is that the biggest... I was arguing about this actually yesterday with a friend, smoking behind the bike sheds on Twitter, as you do. I think the biggest cleavage that's coming on the right is not the one which is currently being fought, over whether or not to ally with anti-woke liberals, which is what all the sensible grown-ups are fighting about. Do we actually want to hang out with people like Dave Rubin, or is that just or have they got like liberal cooties? So that's what all the grown-ups are quarreling about. But in my opinion, that in 10 years' time, it's just not going to be like that at all. Because the biggest cleavage is generational, and it's the internet. Just like the cognitive gap between people who grew up with the internet and people who grew up without the internet is so immense, and it's only going to get more immense as the number of people who wield actual power who don't remember the before times gets larger and larger, and the number of people who remember the before times gets smaller and smaller. So in 10 years' time, the right is going to look completely different. And all those people are mental. They're fucking mental. I mean, I say that with great affection. You know, some of my best friends are mental, but you know, it's going to be a wild ride.
And
Alex,
yeah,
what are your
Alex.
thoughts? I'm gonna.
My thoughts. I agree with Mary. I think it's generational. I also think, you know, these two conflicts kind of overlap a little bit. I think because it's generational, people on the internet understand how the information marketplace works much better than your, you know, fusionist boomer con uncle who still thinks that, you know, we need to, you know, grip onto the Constitution and hold on tight. And, you know, maybe if we get another Supreme Court justice or, you know, maybe next time we'll vote them out. That type of thinking, I think, is kind of passe on in the internet and on the new right with a K. I think that's the one, and the gamer words right. So that felt to me also like in your article, Mary, that was kind of the main tension, that there was this impatient new generation that just didn't have time for the illusions of the old guard. So I think that's a big cleavage.
And this is the article right here from Unheard,
that one,
The
yeah.
American
That
Rights
was a good
Civil
one.
War. So there we
This
are.
came up with Alex's Lomez interview, which I like, but I can tell you recorded that like a month ago because you were talking about the fucking Thiel box when a certain someone had a meltdown. By the way, Peter Thiel has basically dumped a truckload of money on Lev, not mine, but Lev's doorstep for some reason. I don't know. To do this interview.
No, I just make a lot of money now with the crypto cards that I do with the NFTs. Hashtag invest in Lev. There's going to be another really amazing one coming up. So go to superrare.com/Lev Polyakov. This is my
mysterious buyer who happens to be Peter Thiel.
This is my NFT shilling of the day. But anyway, one of the things.
Mary,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, Lev. Did I cut you off?
I wanted to ask Mary this following question, but get those gears running for your question right afterwards. So the question I want to ask Mary is this. One of the things that you were writing about in that article is how there was still a focus on making sure the worst doesn't happen. And by worst, we would define an authoritarian regime. And for you, it's new. For everybody else, it's not new. My particular feelings on not wanting there to be a repeat of the USSR within Russia, whether it's from the left or the right. So what I try to minimize as much as possible going into, you know, the worst case scenario is having a top-down autocratic rule, which I do think a lot of people on the reactionary right are very favorable towards. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, what you've observed at the conference, as far as having this balance between a certain energy that people can feel that would guide them towards making better decisions in their lives, which you could say is a form of authority, but not the kind of authority where, let's say, some rich kid who happens to be connected with the leader wants to, wants to just acquire a company, and so they're just given that company, with full corruption. So that's not what I want. You get a better idea of what I don't want, but now I would love to hear from you.
I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's not up to me. How all of this plays out. One of the things I found interesting, one of the sort of cross current this conference that I noticed didn't really have space in my review to dig into. Like Hungary, the Hungarians were there in force. They're on a real soft power push at the moment, not unreasonably. They're looking for friends, whether it's in the US or across the West, conservative friends who they can either offer succor to. I think their fairly explicit strategy is to execute a kind of reverse brain drain of cancelled academics out to the universities in Budapest. Conservatives, one of the most acute and ferociously contested beefs, among the quote-unquote post-liberal.
The signal is fading out a little bit.
At the moment, I'm sorry. Just to explain for everybody else, I'm actually driving at the moment because I have to be. So I apologise if the mobile reception in Cambridgeshire is a little bit sketchy here and there. So just to back up a little bit, one of the most acute and intensely contested beefs on the post-liberal right at the moment is whether or not whether or not the Hungarian model or something akin to the Hungarian model is even workable in as big and as sort of liberty loving a polity as the United States, or indeed, I suppose, Canada. I believe some of you here are in Canada.
I'm in Canada, unfortunately.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
Oh God.
Well, I guess
so,
yeah.
And I think this is a live question. A good friend of mine, Samantha Matra, I think is putting together the research for a book that looks at this in a great deal more depth, which I think will be very interesting, and I very much hope he writes it. Because it's all very well to sort of point at Hungary and say, well, look, those guys are doing it over there. But Hungary is a small country. It's relatively homogenous in cultural terms. It's got a fairly robust, it's a fairly coherent and homogenous polity. And it has a population about the same size. The entire population of Hungary, I believe, is about the same as London. And considerably less diverse. And you can roll out a kind of a top-down sort of reactionary conservatism with the full consent of the people in a polity of that scale. But how workable is it in a country as big and diverse as the United States? I'm not sure. I mean, I don't see it working. Perhaps I'm but then there are others who say, well, let's not be defeatist, and let's not be bounded by the lame, wispy old school limits of the political.
Well, there is another side to this whole thing, which is I'm not.
Oh, hey, maybe we can have a sort of rephrasing wildly here, but I'm convinced that that's something I would want. That's what I or anybody would want. And I think if you're going to roll down a top down empire, whether it's reactionary or woke liberal or whatever, without the consent of the people, then without at least the passive assent of the people, then you're in territory which is certainly not one that I would want to support.
Well, the consent of the people, that's a difficult one, because you could have some Legend of the Galactic hero, another anime reference, leader come in with golden blonde hair, and they would be very charismatic and a very good leader too. At least in the anime, he was really good, Reinhardt. But then he could have a son, they could have a son who can be just like a real ass, and consent or not consent of the people, now you've done away with any checks to power that would exist. Sure, you could say, well, what checks today? But I think the whole thing with Kenosha still proves to me that there are certain checks in place. So again, for all the people who were blackpilled about it, wouldn't that be an example of something like that being, still being in effect? For all the problems our country has.
Alex, I'm going to bat this one over to you, because I've been tracking something else for the last couple of days.
Okay. I was reading comments. I'm terrible. Sorry, I wasn't tracking question.
No problem at all. I'll repeat it. So
rephrase it a little bit.
Yes.
I kind of knew where it was coming. I didn't hear the the uptick. So
what isn't the summary version? So you could have a really charismatic leader, but what if his son sucks?
Yes,
do you still have the consent of the governed?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, of course. The question of hereditary monarchy. Is it better than what we have?
They always worked, though, I gotta admit.
Yeah, in a way it is, just because of the incentive structure. Even if the son's, retarded, I'm sorry to say, they often are. The incentive structure of everyone around them and the buy-in in the actual infrastructure of the state is much larger, and the transparency of who's in charge is much larger, which is a very important element. Like at the moment, we do not know who is in charge. I mean, we know who's in charge, the presidents, but they're not really in charge. There's like a 17,000
demon goblins. That's who's in charge.
Isn't that like kind of the same case with kings though and stuff like that? Isn't there always people behind the scenes trying to influence and like taking control of different institutions and stuff like that? Like the king can somewhat be a puppet as well, right? Isn't that like
Of course, but compare a king's entourage, because he has a coterie of people around him, obviously his consigliere, and it's kind of like this mafia structure. It's still kind of insular, it's cellular, it's got there's a lot of people around him, but it's not this completely opaque 17,000 layered bureaucracy that's based on the idea of politics without politics, because everyone's an expert and we don't really need your consent to govern you because there's expertise to govern you instead. So, you have this invisible system compared to something that is still very political. Like a monarchy is a very political element. There is someone at the top, and even if there's shadowy creatures around him, once he's gone, the other guy comes with his own shadowy creatures because they don't share him. There's different things. So there's a thing to tear down and a thing to look at. So I think that's, obviously this is not perfect. Monarchy is not perfect.
Well, it's like I responded to, who's that guy? He's like Hakan on Twitter, the other guy. Nemetz. Yeah. I never followed him.
Guy.
I don't know, he's got, anyways, not to cash it, but like I responded to him. He asked, what if like the Caesarism could come from the left? And I said that the problem is that the sort of, let's call it global left, in the West at least, doesn't conceive of power in the same way that the right does, where the right, it's very much like the great man theory of history. I mean, there's some like more postmodern versions of the right wing that are more accustomed to other forms of power, but by and large, it still is sort of like let's call it an aesthetic and spiritual attachment to a Caesarism of sorts. But the left wing, they won't produce, I think, a Caesar figure because their conception of power is very much structural, and it's very much in line with the managerial state, and it's got a different it has a different sort of comportment. Like their power is much more diffused in there.
Well, would somebody like Mussolini be considered to be in that case left or right when it comes to the managerial state apparatus of Italy?
Obviously right wing, because ultimately the state as conceived by fascism is different than even the state conceived of, Stalinism is kind of a tricky thing, but
how would it work? How would it work differently? A fascist state as opposed to the corporatized neoliberal state.
There still is this sort of cohesion of society as a whole becomes a form of expressionism. Like any political action becomes very similar to the way a Caesar would, almost in a act of creation, sort of conceive of certain actions. It's very different than like having a managerial state, which like Alex was saying, has experts and has sort of various layers and sedimentary plateaus of rule and so forth.
Take something like Mao's China, for example. Mao had advisors, but the advisors were too scared to tell Mao certain things. They kind of let him call the shots, and they were ass-kissing him. Would that be an example of something closer to Mussolini or something closer to a neoliberal regime?
Well, I think the point of Maoism was to structure society in such a way as to lead to those revolutionary outcomes. Whereas at the end of the day, we all know that like Mao was calling the shots and all, blah, blah, blah. But like, I think that regardless themselves would say that.
If I can just jump in for a moment.
Go for it.
Mary, you go ahead.
I actually want to recommend a book. It's one of the most cursed things I've read in a very long time, but I also highly recommend it because it's the most mask-off account of the emerging left, if you like, the technocratic, the technophilic left. That I've come across yet. It's Revenge of the Real by Benjamin Bratton, published first of books this year. Well, indeed. But
read this book instead. Where Are We Now by Giorgio Gammon. Fuck Brett. Sorry, Mascot.
Relax,
I couldn't agree more. But it's one of the most horrifying things I've read in a long time. But it's also very clear. And if there's one thing that ought to distinguish us from those with whom we disagree, is that we at least do our enemies the courtesy of reading them and understanding how they think. So, I'm
probably
sorry,
is a good read, though. It is.
Can you give us like a little summary of like what they're trying to propose in this book? Is it too complicated for that? I don't know.
Do you want to take? Do you want to take this one? See if you can do it. Too long didn't read. Go for it.
Okay, basically he's responding to Agamben's posting about the global pestilence, and he says that. I can't even. It's basically like a very convoluted theory cell way of supporting the like expert-driven managerial state, because essentially like he's like, well, left-wingers and liberals have to like abandon their attachment to irrationalism that came from like French post-structuralists. Therefore, we have to like embrace some form of like, I don't know, paleo-progressivism where the sort of like eugenicist. I wouldn't want to say eugenicist. That's too charitable.
No, basically he's saying we need to abolish the human soul and just see ourselves as kind of bodies operated by AI. That's probably the best kind of succinct summary I can give.
Well, I can say fuck that pretty concisely.
That we need to abolish all human interiority and see ourselves as units in a great swarm operating, managed by algorithm.
Yeah, his argument is that because of the global pestilence, I mean, the kayfabe of it, he says that because we're so attached on now a like biomedical level, that therefore like any sort of viewing like the human organism as a unique and self-contained entity is like no longer part of like, I don't know, the progressive like global liberal project. So therefore we have to like embody the view that we are just like machines in a huge machine, and our sort of sense of self will become totally territorialized into a greater whole because it's necessitated, because we have to deny death as much as possible. It's like very very ghoulish
masking
shit.
toddlers is an act of love.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. It's sort of like the care and empathy has to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I think
empathy now. I think
right there.
that's like the weapon that they use, because I think like when you sort of got these pious notions of like empathy and humanitarianism and so forth, it's all bullshit at the end of the day, because you're sort of decoupling it from things that were very fundamental to the human self for such a long time that now you have sort of like a, let's call it UN Charter of Human Rights and Freedoms, like bullshit, like a groundless form of that humanism. Therefore, you could justify anything, any sort of like post-humanist delusion can come down the pipe, because that is like the res extensa of human autonomy. But now it's like, well, human autonomy is good for this part, but when it comes to the legitimacy of the human self in toto, that has to be destroyed, because that is like impeding us from, I don't know, what does Breton even want? Does he want some kind of like transhumanist future, I guess?
Yeah.
Is that...
what he wants...
Just wants Brave New World, apparently.
What he wants is Toto from the Wizard of Oz swallowing, like voring up people, so that the human soul would be in Toto, like you said.
It's funny, the Gita predicted all of this when Krishna was swallowing all of the warriors on the other side of the family. It's like that. It's like when you sort of reveal that form, like when Arjuna, right? Like, I become death, destroyer worlds. That was a sort of a tale about the sort of the global picture, the world picture of that particular civilization, right?
Yeah.
So now it's like, now they have to be sort of the on the one end, it's this really weird inversion where in order to preserve life, you have to embrace an existence of death itself. In order to conquer death, you have to create a sort of doubling, a sort of supplicant of death in this world by destroying what we know is like, they have to destroy our own sort of modes of authenticity, which give us life in order to free us from the shadow of death.
If I can,
is really fucking crazy.
If I can be
abominable,
if I can be a champion for a second, if I could for a second champion human rights, which I know has not had the best reputation as of late on these streams, but if I were to champion it for a little bit, look at what happened with the Kyle Rittenhouse case. I bet a lot of people were thinking, it's going to just, just going to be blackpilling us again. The system doesn't work, enough of this charade. Yet this was an example of there being some opposition that was able to make itself known and was able to sway people. I don't know, Alex, what do you think?
You go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just waving at the person who said hello in Romanian.
Yeah. A bootloader civilization. What? A bootloader species. So, okay, yeah, it's like the typical, like, axe head fucking delusion, in my opinion, is that it's like, well, we're a stepping stone towards something. Well, Alex, you know this. I mean, you were a rat for not a rat. Sorry. You were a rationalist for a long time. So I think you're acquainted of, like, the less wrong obelisk. Like, we are the ultimate stepping stone towards something else, right? And that creation will spawn its own creation, and then...
Wait, well, what does the stepping stone have to do with the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict?
Oh no, that was from the previous one.
Oh, okay. Well, with the
Yeah,
Kyle Rittenhouse verdict, I am curious what you guys think of that, because that does, in a way, disprove. Okay, it doesn't fully disprove, but at least it gives a little bit of a shining light towards certain aspects of the system still working, as much as people want to get rid of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at all the layers to it, I mean, the fact that it even went to court is completely outrageous, compared to
Yeah.
any other crime that's happening, as we speak, in many places and across Western Europe and the U.S. That's crazy. I mean, it was a jury trial. You can move these. You can influence these with all of your firepower, and they tried. If you'd look
Sure.
at the media,
They
it was like
tried and they failed, and I think that's an
Well, even
important
the
lesson.
Tucker interview, like Rittenhouse, he didn't even know like they made it a race thing. To him, he was like, "What are you talking about?" Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was in prison for like 80 days or some shit,
Yeah.
like jail. I mean,
Yeah.
I think if he didn't fire Lin Wood, he would have been fucked, in my opinion, because that
Oh,
guy's
yeah.
crazy. Like,
Yeah.
100%.
oh,
But with
man.
something like this working out in the favor of people who are defending the right to arm yourself, I think this is going to have the effect of more people being confident enough to protect their property and having a bit of a backlash on people who try to
No, Lev,
create
it's
this.
gonna make us right-wing terrorists. We're gonna go and hunt down every bi POC with pronouns in their bio now.
Yeah.
That's gonna embolden us.
Yeah.
To
Anyway, that made me feel a little bit more confident here when it comes to my defense of the current system. But not current system, but defense of the skeleton of the system, as opposed to tearing the skeleton apart. But when it comes to what we were talking about earlier, this hereditary thing with the consent of the governed, my issue there is, how do you define consent of the governed? How many people does it take to define that? And that makes me think of something like democracy, where it becomes the tyranny of the majority who consent to be governed in a particular way.
Bluntly, I can give you a very simple heuristic for whether or not the people are at least passively on your side. Are the normie mums going along with it?
there you go.
Those are very, very basic metric for you.
Yeah.
Do you have at least the passive assent of normie mums to whatever your system
all
is?
right.
Because if you don't, then you're screwed.
Okay, so this is going to go into the territory of Godwin's law, but I think you know what I'm going to say here. How many normie mums fill in the blank when it came to...
I honestly don't know, but it's clearly enough of them for some time.
Yeah, so that doesn't make things bode that well for well, I know that you're not saying normie moms to indicate that it's a consent of the governed that ends up working out in the best case scenario here. But my only point is, how do we make the kind of consent of the governed that prevents something like a fascist state or a Nazi Germany from rising up, where, yes, you are going to have some people who are going to, at least in the short term, get some kind of satisfaction from this, but if we do believe in good and evil, then there are certain things that we know that we have to avoid. And it's not this warped, inverted definition of good and evil like a lot of progressives are spouting. But I mean, actually, not doing the things that were done during the early, mid-20th century. I think that's a reasonable enough thing to ask for.
I don't know the answer to that. I thought I was answering a straightforward question about legitimacy between, the people, if you like, the ruled and the rulers. From that point of view, I think you can use normie mums as a fairly straightforward heuristic. In terms of some more objective scale of moral value, I don't know the answer to that. I think many more intelligent people than me have tried framing constitutions, and I'd probably refer you back to them.
You're right. I don't know the answer to that either, but that is the thing that we keep on. That's the wall that we keep on bumping on. Because for all the normie moms that are out there, you're still going to have enough people in certain historical circumstances that are going to suffer tremendously from a certain system.
Yeah, I think the difference there is kind of the question of what is the face of the regime and what is the regime actually, what is happening behind the curtain, because you could say, okay, we want liberalism because everything else is too scary. You have fascism on the one side, you have communism on the other side. All the other variants have been tried. I doubt that, but that's what people say. And then liberalism is the happy middle. But the problem is that liberalism itself isn't really liberalism. It decays into the form of what we have now, which is quite there is an ideology. It's baked into the system. It does not see itself. It doesn't, understand itself to be an ideology, either religious or not. And it rules. And it rules with an iron fist and in accelerating fashion. Like, these things are accelerating. Yeah. That's why we're here. This is, that's why I have my podcast. That's what we talk about every time. And it's not because everything's super, liberal in the sense of, that, maybe in the dreams of John Stuart Mill, he had an idea. It's that there are secondary effects. There are externalities to liberalism the way it's going, and it's fucked up, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way.
Well,
it doesn't work out.
This is what I tell. Like, I mean, I'm on the fence of this when you're talking about specifically like the white mom demographic. They seem to be like the either the Schelling point of ire or consent of any system, because the way that society's been structured for the past 100 years. I mean, what do you want to call it? I mean, I guess the manosphere will call it gynocentric, but it seems that either they're like total, like, race traitors, or they're like not like liberal enough, and therefore every time, like, they voted for Trump, and it's like, that's even like in this, what was that one tweet that went viral before the Rittenhouse trial? White moms will do anything to protect their white sons. I go, oh, I wonder why, right? Like, it's so. But my point being is that when it comes to, I ask this for both you and Mary, because Mary, reading your articles and listening to you, I know like a bit of your backstory, like starting off being very much like Gen X, British feminism, which is a very much an active sort of like a grassroots active, like working class feminism. And it's puzzling. You're one of your recent pieces where you talk about the sexual revolution, but you start off talking about your relationship to the political right, which is kind of interesting how even like a few years ago, this would be like, and there's still people this wouldn't be tolerated, right? Like to have women in such spaces, like especially women who have like, quote unquote sus backgrounds. But I wonder, like, what do you think about having been in more like like both of you actually, having been in like more right-wing spaces? There is like always the hermeneutics of suspicion. There's always like, you're a fed, you're a thirst trap, you're an e-girl, Alex right here is trying to have an army of simps.
I mean, especially with that bird avatar for all the furries out there, for all the avian furries,
Yeah, like you're trying to grift some kind of mommy GF right-wing, like alt-right 1.1 Lauren Southern demographic. I don't know, whatever. But it seems like as time goes on, there is like a lot of disenfranchised rad femmes who are more comfortable, even though they totally, like, every single day you hear like the arguments, and it's like, especially our good friend, that one person on Twitter, which I want to get her on the show one day. I got to beg her to come on the show. I'm talking about Radfem Hitler. So it's like, it's very interesting the times we're living in. But what do you think when it comes to the fact that women do hold a disproportionate amount of political, certainly consent or ability to consent to certain political projects? What do you think of like sort of the overt like masculinist impulse of the right?
And also I would add this following chart. I would add this following chart, which is a modification of a chart before that I found on 4chan. So you may recognize this Anglo-American history chart over here. Hold on, let me get rid of the bird for a second. So this one
is Spanglerism, the chart right here.
I don't think it's Spanglerism. This is actually Strauss-Howe. That's what this is. But it says over here.
Oh, but it looks like spring. Yeah, it's got the cycles.
And it says over here in very small text, which is why it's kind of difficult to read. But it basically says over here, feminism trumps masculinism. Over here on the lower right, and on the upper right, it says masculinism trumps feminism, and it has men in charge in the blue area and women in charge in the pink area. So, from what I'm understanding, this is the view of a lot of people who are on the right, where they see the society that we're in right now as being women in charge.
Spangler said that as soon as we decouple reproduction as the concern of civilization, then we're all downhill from there. But sorry, go ahead, Mary and Alex.
You've asked so many questions now. I've got to think about which one I want to answer first.
Well, how about your experience as a woman on the E-right? How about that? They're the spiciest one.
Well, I never really set out to be on the right. I don't feel like my political views have changed a great deal since I was a radical leftist in my 20s. It's more that the world has just got a whole lot madder and things go together in slightly different shapes than they used to. I mean, in terms of, I had some fairly sort of epic black pill experiences that is too boring to go into now in my late 20s, and sort of came out thinking, with basically essentially the same beliefs, but, sort of a growing suspicion that everything, all the official stories were actually, the truth was actually the opposite of all of them. And, and I've come to, and so I kind of ran a series of thought experiments in my mind to figure out whether or not I actually believed that. And I've come to the conclusion that that's true maybe half of the time. But a lot of the ones where I feel like the official story is actually the opposite of the one that everybody tells you, or the one which is fiercely defended as dogma, have to do with relations between the sexes. And, as I've thought about it more and I've written about that more, especially over the last couple of years, I've come to the conclusion that the reason why a lot of those stories are the opposite, actually the truth now is the opposite to the one we're officially told, is just because the material conditions have changed. The internet has just turned everything upside down, and a lot of things which used to be true just aren't anymore. For example, contraception. We've under sort of mass internet conditions, contraception has somehow bizarrely stopped being liberating, and it's become a prison for women, because it it compels women into a position where they've got no reason to say no. And there are a lot of young women who are pretty jaded and damaged and screwed up as a consequence of that. And I look at that and I don't see liberation. And the other, I see girls who are sort of the Instagram to OnlyFans pipeline, and the other side of that is jaded guys who can't get it up anymore because they've been hooked on the dopamine machine. Since they were 10 years old.
Can I just ask a question? Sorry.
This is just a completely different world. Go on.
I was just going to ask, do you think there's also an element where people are kind of denying their own reality, their own biological reality to some degree, or
Absolutely.
their nature, you could call it? Because I've noticed that as well growing up. You get told that women need to be this way or men need to be that way. From a kind of more feminist perspective, in the sense of women can be more masculine or whatever the fuck people are trying to tell themselves these days. And I don't disagree that there's some overlap between the sexes in certain degrees, but I do also think there's some level of inherent nature going on. And I do, especially with women, but I see especially with women, a lot of women going in, sleeping around, doing different things and whatever. A lot of them get really depressed and really just not happy with themselves or their lives. They start to hate men because they just feel used and abused and that kind of thing. And
absolutely.
I just feel like they're going against their better nature.
One of my recurring themes. I wrote about this fairly recently on the subject of sex and gender, because sex and gender is really the wedge issue where this is happening. And my hypothesis is that we're living through a concerted push to deregulate the idea of human nature as such, and that there are political reasons, economic reasons for doing this. And from a political point of view, if you abolish the idea of human nature, you can treat people as pure identity, or alternatively in the Benjamin Bratton style, just as pure me, kind of special dignity or whatever. So from a political point of view, there are, if you're a totalitarian creepazoid fuckhead, I'm not gonna him who I just mentioned, then there are there's a case for abolishing human nature. But also from an economic perspective, there are all sorts of biomedical experiments and potentially lucrative, new treatments, or using animals to grow human organs for transplant. There are all sorts of immense commercial opportunities available for experimentation in human biology, but they can only be explored if we somehow manage to train people out of thinking of humans as possessing of some kind of dignity, such that, for example, people have an instant yuck reaction to the idea of, cultivating fetal tissue in a laboratory or crossing humans with monkeys or whatever. But we have to somehow train people out of thinking that stuff is gross or disgusting or undignified or unnatural, before we can embark on this immensely lucrative new field of biomedical experimentation. So, at the risk of sounding completely unhinged and paranoid and whatever, once you put all of those things together, like to my eye, it looks like a deregulatory push, very similar in form to the one that swept through finance in the 80s and early 90s.
Yeah.
So in effect, we're deregulating the idea of human nature in order to it's a new liberalization push, and it's structurally very similar to the one that took place in high finance, which involved getting rid of all the little mom and pop companies, and it involved getting rid of all of the mutual finance organizations which supported working class people, but before there was a welfare state, and it involves getting rid of all of the sort of mutual obligations that were residually present in local bank managers and so on and so forth, in favor of this free flow of capital, which we're now living through the kind of high flowering baroque ascendancy of, and kind of what the financialization of everything, even fucking pizza. Literally, they financialized pizza. You can get pizza on
because Maggie had to get rid of the coal mines.
Yeah,
that's why
they won't be satisfied till they end up financing a different kind of pizza. But we're not gonna get into that right now.
Oh god, that's coming.
So anyway, I mean, this is a very, very, very long answer to your question about people being persuaded to go against their nature. I mean, to my eye, the trans kids are the kind of they're a sort of cute, big-eyed, kittens and puppies kind of wedge issue for the deregulation of human nature, most of which isn't even really about trans people. I've just for the avoidance of doubt, I have immense sympathy for people who feel that who they are in the world, who they want to be in the world, doesn't align with their physiology. That obviously sucks for people who experience it. How anyone gets there is a whole other question. And what the origins are and so on is another question. It obviously sucks for a lot of people who go through that, but I think it's being politicized by a whole bunch of people who don't really have the interests of any of us at heart, even transgender people. And that's some of the stuff that I see in the mail. If we don't in some way, if we can't find a way of recuperating the idea of human nature and talking honestly about the fact that there are some things that are in our nature and there's some that aren't, and to a degree there are the sexes are distinct in that way, but there's a lot of overlap, like you said, but we're also distinct.
You came in under fire recently by the GIAC people, by the Nick's Land. That was hilarious, actually.
Oh, and by the way, somebody who we're also going to have on tomorrow.
Please don't say Nick's Land.
Hold on, no. Since you have chickens, this is Tom Turkey. This is my friend Tom Turkey. He's my good friend. Tomorrow we're going to have the roast of Turkey Tom Thanksgiving Spectacular stream. So Tom Turkey here is going to be joining us. I think what's good to follow this up is the question
Alex didn't answer the question.
Yes. Okay, Alex, answer. Yes, go for it,
Seems
Alex.
like 1,000 centuries ago.
Yes, and then I'm going to follow it up with the question that Turkey Tom over here has, or Tom Turkey.
The question of being a woman on the right wing and
that, but also like the sort of like attitude towards, like how women of a particular socio-political and demographic place in society are such movers and shakers in terms of what is consented to politically. But you go ahead.
I mean, this is the question of women in politics. It is in the end, and why I was attracted to the right wing was because there was quite a significant screaming amount of truth in the right wing, which wasn't there in the left wing, which is kind of the obviously the normie world, and it's exciting, interesting. People are smart, so it's magnetic, and obviously there are going to be women gravitating towards it. The problem when you have truth in anything, and especially if it's been hidden and if it's been suppressed, is that people can get a little bit drunk on the power of having that truth, and so I think there are some excesses. I think there's also a bit of paranoia now, because I think what's happened to the dissident right wing, I feel, is that now there are women in it. When women show up, there's usually, it means that a certain threshold has been crossed. the
the lizard brains turn on as well.
Autism has been surpassed
Yeah.
by the autistic women. If one believes in such a phenomenon. I don't know if that's true, but yeah,
it seems a lot of autistic women are fighting with autistic men now on the internet. I mean,
sounds about right.
The next level, you get the. I don't know if it's autism, to be honest. I think it's some it's some shattering of cluster B. I think there's some form of cluster B that presents almost like autism. I definitely have that. I'm definitely not autistic, but I have lots
BPD,
of
RadFem, GF, autistic,
No, it's a
far-right
different
Nazi, GBF.
It's a different kind of autism. It's AUGHT, autism. You ought to do this, you ought to do that. That's the kind of autism I'm saying.
The wagging thing.
Yeah, but I did have a follow-up.
I had this joke before we came on. There was a few one was I had this thing where because I remember before Alex had her kid, she's like, oh, don't worry about it, I have pregnancy brain. I was gonna say, you women always, it's like, oh, it's my time of the month, I can't think. Oh, it's pregnancy brain, I can't think. Oh, I have menopause, I can't think. When do you women ever think? My God. Sorry, that was a terrible joke.
Oh, God.
Terrible.
Well, Gio, in this brave new world, now you can have the same reasons. So you can be on menopause and nobody can ever question that.
They say men have a form of a time of the month, like or testosterone shoots up near the end of the month or something. I forget.
Or you could just pull a Chris Chan and do like okay, I'm not gonna.
Oh, never. Oh.
But I do have a follow up.
I guess you could turn that question around and say, at least if your hormones are all over the shop all the time, you're never going to be deluded into thinking mind-body dualism is a thing.
Yeah, that's
true.
That's true.
Okay, so I do want to.
Cartesianism does come from a very
just finally on the question of being female and on the right, very straightforwardly, it helps being middle-aged.
Well, we are also going to have Nina Paley on, who in the future.
I'm not posting my face.
Well,
don't worry about it.
No, but when we are going to have Nina Paley on, I would love for you guys to both talk, because I think you're around the same age, and Nina's been through a lot of problems with the transgender people, because she is, as they call, a TERF, and she was canceled. Yes,
Nina Power.
No, Nina Paley.
Oh, yeah, Nina Power.
No, Nina Paley.
Huh.
Nina Paley. Yeah. I know a lot of different Ninas there, but Nina Paley's great.
Although we're trying to get Nina Power on.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call it the Nina Power Rounder when she comes in. But I do want to ask the follow-up question. Okay, so the follow-up question. The follow-up question
She'd
is.
Love that actually.
I'm sure she will. Okay, here is the Lev Polyakov follow-up question. Yes.
When she comes on, you've got to ask her about Demestra feminism.
Oh, all right. We'll do.
I wanted to ask. Well, no.
Gio, I got to get to my question.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, here we go. Okay. Here we are. Okay. So my follow-up question is this: if we had, let's say, a fifth column made up of people who felt like they were oppressed for a long time, whether we're talking about women, whether we're talking about people from different minority groups. There, I think, was something to the effect that if people were denied certain rights, certain freedoms that other people have had for a long time, even if it's like a very niche group, the fact that there was some denial before makes it a very feisty and very rabid fifth column. Do you think maybe if we get used to a lot of this clown world craziness that's going on right now, eventually the fifth column will lose the fifth column-ness, where they wouldn't feel as... And I know it sounds kind of like appeasement, what I'm saying here, but do you think that maybe that fifth column will feel less empowered by the fact that they're not really considered victims anymore, and the juice, the mojo, will start to run out?
Yeah, I see that already happening. I mean, the victim groups that were, several of them are already being discarded. There are various people formerly in the BIPOC coalition who've been sort of more recently discarded. I see Asian heritage Americans often get ejected. If they turn out to be too clever, or for example, Hispanics could easily suffer the same fate. I mean, gay men and lesbian women
Yeah,
been
lesbians
summarily,
particularly.
like exactly, particularly, forgive me, gold star gays. People who've just never slept with somebody of the opposite sex. Plenty of them are up in arms about the idea that, in fact, their sexual orientation is now being reframed as a genital preference, or even just as a sort of form of bigotry. And plenty of them are pretty hacked off about that, and now up in arms. So there are all sorts of tensions and dissensions within the ranks, and I think gay men in particular, have the scope. I mean, lesbians just don't care what anybody thinks of them, so they're always excellently capable of dissent. But there are plenty of gay men, who are increasingly loud and vocal about their objections to some of the directions of travel. Yeah, I think there's all sorts of fracturing going on, and so it's kind of a race against time for whether it all comes apart before the new system of patronage is in place, or how that really plays out.
But if that is the case, do you think that a model could possibly work where, let's say, there would be more of a conservative stewardship over the United States? Again, if we're talking about the US here, where even if there would be certain norms, certain values that would be encouraged en masse, encouraged for whoever ends up becoming the new elites, at the same time, there wouldn't be this case of outright denying somebody the opportunity to go a different direction and try something else. Because that would be different than, let's say, just saying that I'm going to let you do whatever. If you want to go this direction, this is not my favorite direction. I'm not going to encourage this direction. But if you want to do it, I'm not going to stop you. That is a very different thing than giving fuel to the fire of a fifth column by outright denying or banning certain things, which I think would only empower
appeasement never works.
I don't think it's appeasement necessarily. It's a balance between.
That's essentially Yoram Hazany's argument, or that's the one that he put forward when he did the panel, the National Conservatives Conference. I mean, his proposed model is, essentially re-Christianizing America, but with carve-outs for gay people and Jews. I mean, that's a very, very, very crude paraphrase, but I mean, he says that that's a perfectly workable conservative compromise. You end up with a majoritarian, a sort of a modulated majority. So the idea is that it has some carve-outs for minorities. Now, how that I haven't really I haven't thought it through enough to know really where I stand on it. And certainly it's an argument which is causing some intense debate, around those circles. But that is one proposal which is doing the rounds at the moment.
Well, what do you think, Alex? Do we think we need lots ghettos for furries and
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there's at the moment we have like total encouragement, and there's a big gap between toleration and encouragement. There's if the elite creed is something that is pro-social, that is that is geared towards the preservation of a functioning society and the reproduction of the species. So that's kind of not only the norm but also the thing that trickles down from the people that everyone looks towards. Then it's easier to have minorities that are tolerated, maybe even kind of in a parallel system, like Hazony described. Right. I don't know how that works in America when there's like 150 ethnic groups and more coming just by the fact that everyone's mixing together. So maybe there is a way to do that. I don't know, but one thing is certain: there has to be. That's what I've come to believe. There has to be a stable moral framework that represents a confident state, even for minorities, because they have to orient themselves around something. Because what we have at the moment is this shifting tide that's ripping into one direction, and no one really can organize themselves. Like you see, like for example, in Sweden, the minorities, like for example, women from Syria vote mostly for the extreme right party, or so-called extreme right party, Sweden Democrats.
Oh,
so because
Benabati GFs for all of us. So
it's the tide is shifting, so it's not like their values are represented in any way in that. So I think even for minorities, it would be great to have, okay, call it the 10 Commandments, go crazy. But you have to have a set of values that you can't you're not going to check in 50 years from now and say, oh, this is absolutely completely different like it is now in the US or across Western Europe. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
I think the problem is that we mentioned the Hungary model before, which is interesting because I'm skeptical, even though on an intellectual level, I think like any form of like right-wing third worldism is interesting, obviously, but I think like practically it's kind of like that's the difference. Like Hungary, the problem is that you have like a few people. Okay, nowadays you have a more mainstream like Tucker Carlson version of it, but before it used to be like, I don't know, people in the manosphere that moved to like Eastern Europe to like, bang pure white women or whatever, right? Which was kind of ridiculous. But I think like that model itself, I can understand why that's appealing. But the problem is that when you're dealing with the civilization of like millions of people, a multi-ethnic civilization, that's always like, apart from some form of balkanization. I mean, in Europe, this is much easier, obviously. We know which groups you probably have to kick out in order to maintain your functioning civilization. Like what you have to do, clearly. Like Europeans have to have more kids. Like that's a given. Which is another question I wanted to raise, is that I noticed like the anti-natalism thing is growing in popularity by leaps and bounds. And it seemed like just the other day, like there was... Oh, what's her name? She used to be a part of like the Irony Bro people. That Beef Whistle woman, what's her name? Tara. She had that tweet that went viral about like this woman that is like childless and higher income or whatever. It seems like the Zoomer response is that anti-natalism is not just like tolerated, but it's almost like a default good thing, which is fucking scary and terrifying. But I noticed that even on the right, there is like a form that I'm kind of concerned about, even though this is just high impact autism and probably not even worth my time. But there is like a weird form of like ex-PUA, like totally depraved, almost like proto-Stirnerite nihilist version of like, well, society is terminally gynocentric, black pill, therefore we have to bang sex workers, and having kids is a lost cause, and marriage and children and family life is quote unquote gynocentric.
Wait, I do have to offer one.
We have to.
I do have to offer one white pill here, and that is this: maybe a lot of the people going into the future who are going to fall for the trap of being stuck within the metaverse and not having kids and not procreating are actually going to be the ones that we wouldn't want to have kids in the first place, because they wouldn't be as responsible if they're spending all their time playing these VR video games. And maybe that would mean that the very people who don't have enough willpower are going to be the ones not to pass themselves on to the next generation. Would that be any consolation to the situation we have right now? Alex, you're shaking your head no.
No, I think you're underestimating mimesis very
No,
hard.
I don't think so.
Wait,
Yeah.
what was it? I didn't. What were you? What did you say? Liv?
Yeah.
I don't know if
Oh yes. Oh, damn.
it's the
Mary, you there?
Mary? Okay, I will repeat it for you, Gio.
Yeah.
If we're going to have people who are going to be more stuck within the metaverse, who are just going to spend all their
Right.
time in these
Yeah.
fantasy worlds, then...
I'm with Alex. I'm with Alex.
All right.
On that.
All right, but let me know why.
Yeah, I think you're underestimating how people just kind of flock to him.
How people what?
Hello.
Hello, yes.
Yeah, you're breaking up
It's
a
going
bit.
kind of in and out. I guess my recommendation would be...
Oh, you still there?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Just breaking... Oh, damn,
Oh,
she's
shit.
gone. Okay, my recommendation...
What were you saying, Lev, about the metaverse?
Yeah, so, and by the way, my recommendation is when Mary comes back, that she would just look at the waveform on her phone. That may be the best way to tell whether or not the connection's better. I'm not really sure how it works in England. I think it may be that. But my recommendation here is maybe the people who don't have enough willpower, and the ones that will end up succumbing to this virtual landscape of fantasy, then maybe those wouldn't have been the people that would have passed on good qualities towards their kids as far as morals, as far as, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying it's only going to be those people that are going to be attracted to it, but that's still a very big part. I mean, just think of, all the technocrats who don't give their kids iPads, who value real life, because I think that they know what exactly it means just to constantly be in this feedback loop with these things. So when people are going to be free from those, then you are going to have a tiered, like a class system, if you will, of some people who are going to be below, who are going to just always be in need of the dopamine fix, and other people who are going to be above. And I'm not saying that this is a great thing, but I'm basically saying this may be the consolation prize as far as where we're going technologically.
And Alex, what was your objection?
Yeah, I was just saying that I think Lev underestimates mimesis and how, how much social contagion there is with this stuff and all these trends that are coming out of the metaverse. But also at the same time, it could be our equivalent of war. There was a lot of culling of the of people in the past. Genetic culling by simple act that we were warring. Maybe the metaverse is going to be the the eternal bunker where the people that are not going to reproduce.
It'll be the genetic refuge shredder of, instead of going to war, it's like the Star Trek episode, Our Private Little War. It's like you'll go into the But
ironically, if we're talking about this, the people who go to war, they're usually the ones who are, patriotic, who are well-equipped, muscularly. They're people who can handle a gun. So they would be the people who would not be in the metaverse. Maybe. I don't know. So maybe the people who are going to be stuck in it would be more like the Wall-E people. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I'm seeing, because I understand what you're saying. There is definitely an element where, it's kind of good to know that these people who are basically outing themselves as completely selfish and wouldn't be willing to raise a child and stuff like that, so maybe not have
their
children.
Argument is that they're selfless and that it's actually not selfish.
I know what they say,
saving
but
the
it's
environment,
not what they say, it's what they do.
And that it's selfish to want to in fact it's selfish to want to propagate your genes into the future, because that's this is what I'm saying. Even the fact that we're seeing even though it's a very small community of autists, the fact that we're seeing a right-wing version of that is terrifying to me, because now you could say imbibe the terminal black pill, therefore even having a family and having children is quote unquote gynocentric, therefore it's better looks max and then go in prosty max or whatever. It's to me that's that's
But it is worrying. But I will say to Alex's point, it does gravitate, it has gotten bigger and bigger over the years, and definitely don't underestimate how far spread this kind of thing can get. However, I do think, to speak to Lev's point though as well, is that these things go in swings and roundabouts, and I think there will probably be some level of resurgence for finding identity in motherhood and taking back your femininity and stuff like that. I think maybe we'll reach a peak, and maybe that peak will actually be when the right wing starts getting infected with it as well. There might be some level of a swing back around where people are I'm going to rebel against this. I'm going to have 6 kids.
Yeah. Well, it also I think depends on what you do. For example, if you were Europe after World War I and you saw what happened with Germany, what if Europe would have gone, you know what, we're going to help the Germans out. We're going to take it really easy on them. We're going to make sure that they get back on track economically. So kind of do a similar thing that happened with the German economic miracle after World War II. If that were the case, I don't think you would have had as hot-headed of a response as you did with World War II, which is, again, why I say, when you're on top, don't make the same fucking mistake that was made before and actually leave room.
That was the French, They really fucked us over in that regard.
Fucking frogs? Yeah. No,
but
you're
Mary,
right.
This is your territory. Are you here, Mary? Can you hear
Mary,
us?
You are muted right now, so please unmute yourself. And everybody subscribe, by the way. All the people who are watching this, we need the subscriptions. We need the patrons.
Yes, this is live ZHP, yes.
Yes.
Yo,
hello.
Hello, I'm back. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm literally now in the beating heart of Normie Cambridge city centre itself, on my way to Trinity College. So I have to talk in hushed tones about anything even remotely spicy, or I'll get dogfired. I'm not kidding. I got tutted once in a cafe because I said I say what I said.
So what do you think about left-wing and now right-wing anti-natalism? What do you think of this trend?
I think it's shit libbery with extra steps.
Yeah, but like what average centrist you were saying about how maybe that, like, and you talk about this return to like an ownership of femininity through motherhood and through family life, if that's possible to sell to like Zoomers with neon hair and pronouns in the bio. I don't know how that could come about.
Well, I mean, I actually see the backlash in favor of younger motherhood already happening. I mean, I have like Gen Z or borderline millennial Gen Z friends, like 23 and so on, who are cracking out babies now. You know, they're moving to small holdings in New Hampshire and banging them out. You know, they're just doing it. I mean, some of them have some pretty interesting political views, but it's happening. You know, it's I'm really, you know, I'm into my 40s now, and I suppose I've always been a chronic political hipster. But you know, in as much as I take an interest in this stuff, you know, it's from a position on the fringes. But you know, the girls who are like 23, 24 now and have just decided to, you know, they're doing their version of exit. And exit looks like, you know, having 5 kids by the time you're 30. And I say good luck to them, because I mean it's a completely legit way to go about it.
But economically, were you saying that there is a problem today that the trad lifestyle is a bit of a LARP for most people, just economically speaking? Or
is.
No?
It's a problem. You know, it's only available if you've got two, you know, at least one really good income and potentially 2. Otherwise, it just doesn't really. Otherwise, it doesn't work massively well.
Pill. Or you could take the Varge pill and live in the form of happy poverty, I guess. That would be another form of exit, I think.
Yeah, I guess that's an option as well. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly, you know, if you're struggling even to make rent as a couple, you know, in the location where you have to live in order to be able to do the work that you've been qualified to do, you know, trying to, you know, the whole idea of, you know, a kind of trad lifestyle is a complete pipe dream. I mean, I don't think it has to be like, I don't think that's how you have to organize it, to be honest. I mean, I don't lead a trad life remotely. I mean, I work pretty much full time. I didn't used to when my daughter was little, tiny. And it's actually, you know, we actually have we both work from home. We have a sort of pretty egalitarian setup. My husband sorts her before school and I sort her after school. She's always got one parent or the other kind of around school hours. You know, and we both work. You know, if you have, you know, most of the manual labor in a house, you know, is not like the old days. You know, most of that is kind of dealt with by machines as things stand. I mean, if we live through an apocalypse and everything completely goes to shit, then it might be a different story. But you know, as things stand, you know, you don't need to be a trad wife unless you have like 6 kids.
Yeah.
So you know, there are plenty of different ways of organizing it. And I think this obsession with the trad lifestyle is a bit of a red herring. A, because it just doesn't make sense for the majority of people, and B, like, it's not economically viable, and also it's just a model for an age which doesn't exist anymore. You know, it's you know, I wrote something a little while ago about why trad wives are kind of a red herring because they're not trad enough. And actually, we shouldn't be looking at the 1950s. We should be looking at the 1450s.
Yeah,
because that was an age where family life was productive. You know, people worked in the home, and everybody worked, including children. And I think it's you know, there are much more creative and fruitful ways forward out of this kind of blind alley of tradness and, you know, old, you know, gen sex roles which are just not really comfortable for anybody anymore. Into something that's realistic in terms of, you know, what biologically, you know, where biologically we do actually differ, and into something that just feels a bit more realistic and a bit more achievable with where we are now.
And
so
Alex,
that was my mother growing up in Brazil and then Italy, like, because my grandfather he had 3 girls, so they had to like help him, you know, with his carpentry business. And like, my grandmother was always working, and it's like, you know, even like, I could remember, like, from a very young age, you work with your mother and your grandmother, and you're working like around the house, and even just to make like the nightly meal is like a feat, right? Compared to nowadays. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's a totally different mode of existence. You can't really like, it requires like a lot of like skills passed down to people, right? Anyway, sorry, Alex.
I hear a dog over there. And I am also curious about Alex. Would you say you're living a trad lifestyle right now, or something close to it?
Trad lifestyle.
Wife style. That's good.
Lifestyle. No, I mean, it's a hard thing. I mean, it depends. It's definitely more trad than your average Western woman. I live in a multi-generational pod, and I have a garden, though I don't really cultivate, everything I eat and things like that. So this is not like a homestead or anything. I live in kind of a small town. It's not, Little House on the Prairie for sure. And I'm not churning butter. I have to say I purchase things at the store. Yeah, I think I agree with Mary. Everything's a LARP nowadays, just because we really do not need to do all of these things. So everything's kind of been disintermediated, and I think that's that's the cause of the atomization idea. You literally do not need your family. You literally do not need your the baker. You don't even need friends. You can just essentially live as it's the first time in history you can live as this. Yeah, and in the pod, literally, and it's kind of comfortable as well. I think people have this this revealed preference that they don't really like to have social friction. Social friction is really really hard. That's why everyone has what's that called, social anxiety nowadays, because you just don't have to have that many social interactions, and you forget, you're rusty by the time you get to talk to someone. And people don't like talking on the phone. It's weird. Why should you talk on the phone? You can just text, or
Yeah, I know. I don't.
Made an app or something.
There is a lot less pressure, but to push back a bit, not to the extent we did last time with the To the Moon Alice, but something a little bit lighter, which is, by the way, there's a little bit of audio interference on Mary's line right now. I'm going to temporarily mute it just because there's the noise. But anyway, this idea is, let's say you get married to someone and there's nothing that dramatic going on, but in general, you just find that you can't really stand being with this person. And yes, I understand that there are certain circumstances when everybody's working and you just have to literally survive to live, and there's no time to even think about, I don't really care about being with this person at all. But I wouldn't put it past, concern that there would have been times before where a substantial amount of people were just living, let's say from a younger age, with somebody that they just found out they have absolutely nothing to do with, and if they would have had their way, they would have divorced them, but they cannot. So I never know when it comes to talking about history, whether we're talking about 10%, 20%, 50%, 70%, 80%. The only thing I know is my family. I'm knock on wood, I'm very grateful to have the family that I do. I don't know what your family's like. I don't know what Gio's family's like, or average Centrist or Mary's. So it's very difficult for me to say what exactly is going on. But is this something that can be addressed in a certain way?
Yeah, I think our perspective of what family means has changed very drastically. We're still kind of in the consumer mindset. You consume the experience of having a wife, a family. That's how you can get to that level of friction. Like, oh, I can't stand this woman. Well, if she's the only thing standing in between you and your meals and you having children, or if she's the only option that was open for you at that circumstance, it just doesn't cross your mind to think about it that way. So I think it's very hard to say which percentage of people had that relationship to their spouse, because I think relationships to the spouses were just completely different, because they were essentially much more based on what do we do together. In the marriage was the purpose of it. It wasn't your relationship. You weren't buddies. You were there to have children, to propagate, the family name, to do certain land deals, to just live, to do the business of living. And I think it was just a completely different, the nature of the relationship was very different. So
I would agree with that. I think if there's anywhere useful we can go from here, I would actually speak from my own experience, having adjusted to both of us working from home. whilst also having a kid. And I would say, in my experience, the thing which has made that possible has been both of us setting aside the idea of big romance in favor of something considerably more pragmatic. And you can't sustain the big romance if you see each other all day every day. You just can't. And if you try and do that like that, I have this hypothesis that in fact big romance is kind of a bullshit consolation prize for the amount of autonomy that women lost. When the industrial era began. The whole thing was just invented to cheer women up for the fact that they were no longer participating in public life to such a degree, and they'd been sort of stuffed into the private bourgeois household instead, and so they got big romance as a consolation prize. And we're kind of out the other side of that now, and I think we have to, like, if we're going to manage any kind of functional family life in whatever the age where it is that we're in now, we have to abolish big romance.
And somebody wrote over here.
Is there even any romance anymore? I mean,
well,
exactly.
It's dead now.
Maybe it's just defined in a different way, because to me, romance is finding closeness between the struggle that you go through together and like discovering who you are together. It's not like giving roses by the fireplace and lying them down.
This is why I think I was a little bit misconstrued with my question, and it's definitely because of the way that I phrased the question. So when I'm talking about this level of not being able to live with somebody, I'm not talking about just there's no romance anymore, there's no spice in our marriage. That's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm talking about more this idea of your significant other being like a body part, being like something that if they were to die, then it would be like a body part of yours would be chopped off. This is the feeling that I get from my family personally when it comes to how close our relation is. Well, hold on. But one other thing, Gio. I wouldn't say that we have no hardship. We have a bit of hardship, yet we're able to still have that kind of understanding among ourselves. What I would add into this, though, hold on, I'm going to temporarily, because there's a kid shouting in the background. Sorry, Mary. One thing I would say here is the polar opposite of that would be a relationship where the wife or the husband would just be constantly fantasizing about just stabbing or poisoning the significant other. That's the level that they can't stand each other. And I've known people like that. I've known people, within the Russian circle that we are in, who have exactly that kind of relationship. They stay together. So I'm not just talking about the spice has gone down. I'm just talking about this being literal hell on earth prison that this person's experiencing. But it's an open question that I can't answer. How many relationships were like that?
But what I mean, Lev, is like hardship or like mutual understanding is only brought about through life experiences. Like, your parents came here from the Soviet Union and they had to struggle. And like, I think the problem nowadays is that the sort of like free choice and consent model is really dooming us to sort of like a postnatal future, because now it's like the notion that you would sacrifice your own sort of autonomy or whatever to have kids with someone is like almost beyond the pale nowadays for the average Zoomer tops 80. I don't know. It's like that, like, just, it's really shocking to see how, well, our friend ZHP said it the best in his thread. I keep coming back to this thread because it was amazing, where he said they just plain don't want them. Their desires are hideous, hideous, hideous. So,
but I think that goes for everything. I think that goes for creature comforts. Yes.
You guys, I'm sorry to cut in. I actually have to go because I have to scurry off to my next thing. I'm very sorry to disappear at this point because it's just got really entertaining.
No problem.
But you guys be good without me.
Mary, I would love to have you again. I would definitely have to have you with Nina Paley as well.
It's been a lot of fun.
It has.
Let's do it.
Take care.
Let's do it. It's been lots of fun. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And by the way, guys, we are going to have Nina Paley along with my friend Tom Turkey over here for the Turkey Tom, the Roast of Turkey Tom live stream tomorrow at 5 o'clock. We are also going to have some surprise guests. I'm not going to say who they are yet, but Nina is going to join us, and Gio and Alex and Average Centrist. Did you know that Nina Paley had Amos Yee at her home?
Oh, God, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Oh,
when?
man. Her boyfriend did, but...
Yeah,
her boyfriend, yeah.
Yeah.
But she also
when he started spurging out, and then...
Yeah, so we're going to get the inside skinny on what exactly went down there tomorrow.
That is your logic for bringing on me to like, because Turkey Tom did the documentary on Amos Yee recently.
Yeah.
So...
Well,
damn.
Alex, do you know who Amos Yee is?
I have no idea.
He's probably gonna be. He's probably gonna be like a senator in America, like in a couple of years.
Oh God, no!
This boy's gonna go far.
He's gonna be heading a children's charity.
Oh fuck! Oh fuck!
Yeah,
he was a Korean.
No, not Korean. What are you talking about? He was from Singapore.
Singapore. He was like part of the he was like inspired by the OG fedora tipper YouTubers like Amazing Atheist, and he got into a lot of trouble in his country for freedom of speech stuff. So they sort of like paraded him around. He was on Dave Rubin, blah blah blah. And he came to America when he hit college age. I think he spent some time in juvenile hall or whatever for insulting the president or that died or whatever.
I don't think it was juvenile hall. I think it was like full on prison.
Was it full on prison?
Yeah.
So a bunch of these skeptics, this was before the Gamergate days, they basically like advocated for him. And Nina Paley and her boyfriend offered for him to come over to America and, you know, stay at their house or whatever. And he had his moment in the sun. But then he started like going off, which in my opinion is kind of like the logical conclusion to a totally nihilistic worldview like that. He started advocating for
Geo, yes, be careful the way you, yes.
Yeah, I know, I'm not going to say it's YouTube.
Yes.
Which ironically is the way that they're trying to put it into universities and stuff like that now. Like the language that he
was a map.
used.
He was a map.
Yeah, the language that he used to describe what he was talking about in terms of his desire and whatever.
Yeah.
I obviously won't say what it is, but like they are now putting that into universities, and there are literally like these non-binary people trying to do lectures in universities.
Well, he claimed it wasn't his desire, but I can't, you know.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, but then there were those texts in Discord. I mean, I'll say no more. Watch the Turkey Tom video.
With a 15, I'm gonna
upload it.
The young girl.
But here's what
there's allegations. I just say Discord. There you go. You know. Say no more.
But here's what Nina wrote. So she wrote, "Wow, I watched."
Apparently, he had a group of these maps in a Discord group.
Yeah,
he was like bouncing ideas off.
A lot of pizza-related maps, yes. So the handkerchief, you remember.
Terrible,
anyway,
terrible.
Nina wrote, watch the video. Yup, I was one of the many who tried to help Amos only to have him bite the hands that fed him. My ex Theo was generous to him beyond sanity. Glad his official diagnosis was narcissist. That's how I called him when he was in Illinois detention. On the plus side, he cured me of helping wounded birds. No more narcs for me. So there we are.
No.
Yeah, but one of the most ridiculous things though with his story is that this guy who was this Christian, I don't know if he was a pastor, but he was like some Christian dude,
youth pastor.
Yeah, youth pastor. Yeah, who freed him. He paid him the bail money twice.
Yeah,
and this is like,
and he totally snaked on this guy and insulted him and implied that he was trying to, like, I don't know, do something to him. It was like so fucked up.
Yeah. So again, this is why I say in the reality we're in, Geo, this guy's gonna go far. So no doubt about it. He's gonna be walking. He's gonna be walking hand in hand with Jen Psaki.
People don't know this.
Gonna get a deal with Subway.
Even TJ, an amazing atheist, he had some kind of stuff going on in his ancient DeviantArt account where he wrote some. Anyways, I don't want to get into it, but
it's the next level of it. Like, you know, we were saying before, Gio, that I was kind of into rationalism, and you know, rationalism kind of has this idea that, you know, that's the dualism, that Cartesianism is at the core of rationalism, that there's, you know, something in there that's guiding you and can make the rational decisions. It is absolutely logical that the next stage is to kind of free the consenting child. You know, why, you know, it's an arbitrary limit. Why do we say 18? Is a 17-year-old not, you know, prepared to be rational and consent and do all the cool, rational, lazy things that everyone wants to do? So it's going to be, you know, it's already phrased in the language of freedom, of releasing the inner child from the shackles of the adult. So it's coming, and it might come sooner rather than later.
I think like the fact that they have this, like, they coax it with sort of like a humanism or like sort of an empathetic like framework is like really disturbing to me. I think like a lot of what they, you know, target children with, I think like that it's really like that type of discourse is just, not just being, it's baseless, obviously, but the fact that it's baseless on such a deeper level, like it really is like the terminal conclusion to like what we see nowadays is like the liberal worldview ethic. It's like,
the nihilistic,
if you have as much
hedonistic
freedom, right? Yeah, like it's total hedonism. I mean, even like, I hate to say it, but even like, I don't want to counter signal too hard here, but like even there's a, based red-pilled version of it where it's like, well, it's like that's attacking male sexuality of age consent laws. It's like, does he really want to die on that hill? Is that based in trad red pill? Does that have a fucking 13-year-old trad wife? It's like,
no, it's not.
I don't know.
But I will say just very quickly, because I don't really shill myself often, but I will say I'm actually writing an article about
the French petition.
I'm writing an article about the about people using empathy as a cover for all this kind of shit, for basically things that are completely sociopathic and devoid of empathy. Like I think it's really interesting. I've been watching it develop for years and years, and I know there's probably others that have spoken about it, but I'm writing something about it and I'll put it out in a few days. So.
Well, I'm kind of curious, Average Centrist. I have two questions for you, but the first one is, do you think from that particular stick stream that you were doing a review of, and by the way, guys, go to Average Centrist's YouTube channel, because you only have 83 followers right now, which is a step up from what you had before, but this is not enough. So guys,
on my Twitter.
Yeah, guys, follow Average Centrist, but also on YouTube. I'm going to post the link as well. Please subscribe to Average Centrist YouTube. Here is the link to it. But anyway, do you think that Ms. Deloach, again, I appreciate her coming on, but do you think her reaction was coming from, for those who don't know the story, she worked for Pete Buttigieg. There was this big thing that she had with Styx, this big argument concerning Trump.
Oh, why are you bringing that up again?
I'm bringing that up because I am curious when it comes to the kind of stage that people are in. Is it a matter of her legitimately feeling these particular feelings and reacting this way that's just kind of taken her? Or do you think that this is, I don't know, like, how would you exactly define this kind of thing that's going on with a lot of people today who are, let's say, in that more, let's say, progressive liberal side? How much is it true belief versus them not even knowing that they're playing a particular role in saying what they're saying?
I don't know about her in particular. My impression of her was that it was all egocentric. So, if you want to get more of my thoughts on that, we did do a stream. Lev was in the chat for that. So like, it was an interesting stream, but my summary of what her behavior was like, it seemed like everything that she was doing was coming from an egocentric place rather than being like a full-on true believer. That was what my takeaway was. However, I do think on the other side with the left-wing spectrum in general, I think it is more the case that there's a mixed bag of people. And I think a lot of naive people are being manipulated by these narcissistic, nihilistic types who really want to get their rocks off and go down the hedonism route, because that's all they have, that's all they care about. And obviously the logical conclusion is to get to what they perceive to be as the most pleasurable thing that they can get to, which is probably, vast amounts of drugs and any kind of sex that you can get on the table. So, and they're easing that forward, and they're easing it forward in it whichever way they can, and they try things and pull it back, all the time until eventually it sticks. And I think, we're kind of going through that, and there has to be a massive pushback against it. That's why I'm always pushing back against stuff like that. I don't let things slide, especially when it comes to like the kid stuff. That really bothers me.
And do you also think, this question for you and Alex and Gio, do you think that in general there's been this trend towards infantilization of adults as well, both with the use of primary colors and in general having a much more controlled populace? And also, to follow that up, do you agree with Nietzsche that maybe the people who are going to be in this VR scape, in this infantilizing VR scape, that eventually they are going to not just be robot-like, but they will be replaced by robots one piece at a time, so they will just cease to exist altogether?
Alex, do you want to take that?
So is that for me?
Yes.
Do I agree with Nietzsche? In general, I do. Will they be replaced? I think... Yeah, we are, slowly being possessed maybe not replaced yet, but definitely possessed by a lot of kind of this techno sphere that has a life of its own. I mean, Zero writes about this very well, and it's dystopian, but it's already here. I what was the previous question? Because I was embedded within a
the question was not only the roboticization of people, but also, do you notice a pattern towards people being a lot more infantile in not only how they talk, but also the dress styles, the color design, just the things that people surround themselves with. If you compare, for example, like old school fashions being a lot, I don't know if I should say prettier, but just being a little bit more mature.
Yeah, of course. I think it's kind of infantilizing. It's kind of liberalizing as well. I'm beating this horse, until the end of the show. But it's there's everyone associates childhood with a time of complete freedom. You didn't have responsibilities. There's also kind of this imagination space of childhood where you have more degrees of freedom. Like, why wouldn't you eat cereal at 4 a.m.? That was your dream when you were a child.
They have cereal bars.
Magicspoon.com. Magic Spoon. Okay.
I don't know if I agree with that, Alex, because when I look at those people that are like kind of given into this infantilization side of things, like people who pretend to be like babies and shit like that, it seems to me to be like a cry for authority, like a cry for people to look after them and be mothered.
That's kind of the fringe of it, like people who are into diaper wearing and stuff. I'm just talking about your average stoner.
Right. Okay. All right.
Average
okay,
Redditor.
Yeah, exactly.
Watching Rick and Morty
but maybe there is something in the larger picture here where those people that you say, Alex, who are acting out like this, who are dyeing the hair, whatever, maybe that is a subconscious way of doing exactly what average centrist just said right now, of eliciting a response of authority from somebody else to come in there and to fix their mess. Like, I don't know, Gio, would you say that AJ Soprano is an example of that, just like this spoiled kid who was just trying to reach out and get some kind of an authority, well, which his dad partly did, but it didn't really work out for the guy.
He never had a chance. AJ never had a chance because he was like Tony, but instead of Tony utilizing his own depression and anxiety towards anger and commandeering an impossible situation, right, in life, between his mother and his father, and expectations of his father, AJ just totally broke down into like, what do the Chapo people call it? Fail son territory, right? Like, there was this tweet the other day, and it's like, I mean, I said, like, it's amazing, like, everyone thinks that this is their unique situation when it's like really a whole generation of, where it was something like, you sort of like sit alone, you go days at a time without interacting with someone, you listen to the same fucking songs you've listened to for 20 years. You dream of impossible situations that will never happen. Like, you saw that one, Lev. I think, like...
Yeah, well, the difference is that I dream of impossible situations that will happen. But that's... Well... I'm already making them happen by doing BTR. This is just the beginning. But anyway.
Yeah, no MAP stands for non-offending map. Yeah, I know. But, I mean, the fact that they label themselves, to me, is a lackable offense. But anyways, well...
Get some concrete shoes on, lad.
Well, Fed posting. I think like a lot of it on one end is old as time itself, but on the other end, I feel like it's uniquely millennial pathology. Like I said this on Godward was in the chat. I said this on Godward's podcast a few nights ago. Like, it seems that because we're the jump off generation where our childhood was indicative of a different epoch, and now that we live in like this total like digital hyper reality hellscape, I think like there's like the fact that like things like the Y2K aesthetic are so popular. There's something about this, like, I know it's like totally like zero books, Mark Fisher fucking shit, but like there's a hauntology there of our childhoods itself as representative of the ideas of like truly like, post end of history, like liberalism of the 90s, where it's like, now that all unless you grew up in Eastern Europe, that's different, right? Unless you grew up in the Congo, right? But let's say for most people, that's indicative of a time where it was like the perfect generation, right? Like, it's like everything in history just made sense. But now that we have, after the towers fell, and now that sort of our lives are being determined by this like hyper reality machine, by the abstract machine of the online, where things are more slippery and things sway in and out of different modes, and now of course being territorialized by corporations, and now that's even another layer of hell. I think like the impulse to stay like child forever, or no, to stay adolescence forever, because that is the like golden time between the responsibility of adulthood and the freedom of childhood. So it's like adolescence is extended forever, right? And I think like it's very interesting how on the one end though, I would say that we are dealing with like forces that were not unique to our time. Like there was this great podcast that Alex did with our good friend Jeffrey Schollenberger on the blood, what do they call her, blood queen from in Romania? Yeah, what was her name?
Erzsébet Báthory.
Yeah. It's fun. That's actually a great black metal band, Bethor. So where like those intense degrees of like Dissadian like domination and the worship of death and bondage and a very unique form of sexual depravity. I think like it's the sort of like intoxicated fantasy of nobles that sort of that crossed over into horrendous mythology like you had with her. It's very interesting how nowadays we see like a very like neutered proletarian version of like intense debauchery that only nobles knew back in the day. It's like it's very much like a lot of these things are a supplicant for what came primordially to the
How do we know though
man.
that it's just the upper class that was into a lot of this debaucherous stuff? Because they're the ones that leave all the records.
They were the ones that had the ability. I mean, to have like a whole army of people whole army of slave girls to sacrifice.
Sure. I mean, yeah, if we're talking about amounts, if we're talking about quantity instead of quality, then you're right. If we're talking quality instead of quantity, I'm not sure if they're equal or...
Yeah, but my point is transgression is now more proletarianized than ever. And I don't know what you guys think of that.
Go on, Alex, sorry.
No, I was just saying it's a function of technology. I think mostly the fact that it's what was that, premium mediocre, that the fact that everyone has access to premium mediocre versions of I don't know, sex dungeons. When you had one room at your disposal, you didn't have the available time and space to think about your sex dungeon. But now with a lot of excess of everything, your mind starts idle hands and idle brain cells, I think.
I'll give you an example. Once I was at this Halloween party of this film director, and he had a dungeon.
Good things aren't going to come out of this still.
Okay, I'm not going to talk about it then. Next time.
No, go ahead. Now you open up.
I want to hear about
this. Okay. So he had a dungeon. So I went downstairs, and they were doing like the whipping, and so I said, you know what? I am curious. Like, how good are they? So I decided to get like one whip, on the behind, and I was like, you know what? This is nothing. They're not even trying. And I knew that they weren't going to try because there was something mediocre about the force that they were applying. I'm one of those people who was like, if you're going to make a dungeon, if you're going to whip people, you better do it right, I'm sure
I want my skin flayed.
Yes, I'm sure Alexander Bard would
cat
agree.
Of nine tails better have barbed wire in the
tip. Get some nails in the end. Like.
I am curious. I think that would be a very interesting stream in the future, Alex. If you're interested to go on with Alexander Bard and talking about sex culture and things of that nature, because he is much more, let's say, pro sex worker and things of that nature. So.
Oh.
Yeah, I've heard one stream with him. Yeah, sure. I think he's kind of the meta modernism type stuff.
He was before them, yeah.
Yeah, so he has his own kind of totalizing vision. So yeah, he's an interesting guy. I think he's a liberal. I am not. So I think that's probably the big here. Interesting, sure.
Yeah. And that's the kind of
deep left jock. Are you fucking kidding me? Deep left jock.
Who is that? Is that sounds like the name of a vampire. Jakul. Wouldn't that be a good vampire name? Jakul.
It would be cool.
He would. First of all, he probably wouldn't come on. Second of all, I wouldn't be opposed to the idea. It's just I don't know. He's pretty slippery, put it that way.
Well, again, the vampire has to cover themselves with some kind of a lubricant to protect themselves from the sun. So no wonder.
No, I meant metaphorically slippery, Lev. I didn't mean that. Like, oh my god. Oh, why did I even bring this up? My point being is that we live in a time of everything. It seems everything's a humiliation ritual nowadays. I think even the fact that
including BTR. Yes.
Yeah. But
By the way, I do have a
talking-
question. Hold on. I have a question for average centrists and Alex. Do you think there is hope for liberalism? Can liberalism be saved? Go. Start with Alex.
Liberalism can be saved. Not in its current form. Only if you bastardize it beyond recognition. So if you have, for example, if you say, okay, we're going to make a state cult out of the year 1992, and you just nail it down and have, militias imposing the law of 1992, that is it. That is the amber encased state of 1992. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is on TV forever, and that is it. That's how you save liberalism.
That is how you save it, actually. Yeah, I agree with that. But I would say
Randy Savage
the only
was
way,
a champion.
yeah, bring back Randy Savage. But yeah,
He's dead.
Well, bring it back anyway. We got cloning techniques.
Well, Jay Lethal did do a bit where he was pretending to be Randy Savage. That was pretty cool.
We can
It
bring
was
back
close. It was about as close as we're gonna get.
We can bring back Randy Savage. We can bring back Chris Benoit and his entire family.
Okay.
That could be like a tag team thing. Chris Benoit versus his entire family, zombies.
God!
Just stop. But it has to be like Wild Pegasus Benoit when he was in New Japan. That was
Well, I'm gonna say, just to be a little bit more serious. I
Wait,
will say-
hold on. Wild Pegasus is the horse of. I don't even know if he had a daughter, but if he had a daughter, she'd ride Wild Pegasus, a zombie horse with wings who would just like hoof attack Chris Benoit.
what the fuck? Stop it! Stop. Stream's running off the rails.
Average
centrist.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and be serious for a second.
Apparently,
but
his son wants to be a wrestler now and like use his name. But
Really?
Wait, his son is
Yeah.
a bit
alive?
risky, but
he had an older son with another woman. That's like, yeah.
Oh my God,
Apparently,
bit of
Chris
a risky
Jericho was
one.
training
Bit of a
him.
risky one, I would say. But I think the only way you can really save liberalism is if there's any dedication to principle and to truth. Otherwise, it's just completely pointless trying to save it. Like, if there's no dedication to that, then you're fucked.
I guess
What is truth, my friend? That's where the
Well, I mean, we can
Yeah, it's like
say
what
that
is-
we can say that all we want, but that attitude is literally like what is the downfall of every single system altogether. Like, it's just like, unless we're dedicated to finding whatever kind of reality or truth is. I mean, obviously it can be appropriated or perhaps have a bias to it or something. I still think though that like the pursuit of that is going to be what saves any system, regardless of whether it's liberalism or not. That's going to be the crux of it. I mean, if we're all just dedicated to not giving a fuck and not having principles and not having any of this stuff and not caring what the real truth is of anything, then every system you want to put in place is going to be fucked.
Yeah, you know what? I think every system believes it has truth. In the end, it kind of has to. That's kind of where it gets its coherence. That's where it gets its legitimacy. Yeah, I think every system will try to get truth. I think that the problem with having a system where the principle is we're constantly in the pursuit of truth is that it is prone to corruption by people who have very different ideas about what truth is, and they say they're going to be hunting for truth while they're actually pursuing political goals and railroading whatever.
Yeah, no,
But the same could be said for any system too. Instead of pursuing truth, they'd be pursuing a particular lifestyle that they would encourage everybody to have, while doing something completely different behind the scenes, as well as having it be more of a facade as opposed to actually pursuing that policy. Like
I mean,
that,
as long as the system perpetuates itself, as long as it's relatively healthy, that's kind of the only compromise you can have. The elites will do what the elites will do, as long as the mainstream, the core ideology of the regime is healthy enough to make things work in reality, to facilitate social trust, to make the trains run on time, to not get people fired for crazy reasons, because there's a shifting ideology that no one can keep up with. I think that's the only compromise you can have, I think. So there's no perfect regime, that's for sure.
Well, the only compromise I'd say there is to, and again, this is just my personal grievance here with a lot of these more authoritarian-minded systems. Not the only personal grievance, but a big one, I'd say, is just allow people who want to participate in your system the chance to do so. You know what I mean? Like, instead of basically saying that we're going to make you take this much harder test as opposed to taking the regular test because you happen to be from this particular tribe or whatever, as was done in imperialist Russia. I think shit like that ends up causing a backlash, which makes things, take the ugly form that it does, and it's just stupid. I don't see any reason for having those particular
but then you let
stipulations
certain
in.
people in. And...
let the people in who want to participate, as opposed to those who then end up wrecking your entire shit because they felt like they never even were given a chance to begin with.
Yeah, I think that's, exit rights and all that stuff. Yeah, that's for sure an important, access and exit rights, an important part of it. But at the same time, I think the test has to be proportional with the propensity of the group to integrate, because if you give someone who's Canadian a test, a very basic test of getting in the US, because, these are very compatible cultures, it's a different thing from giving it to someone from Eritrea, if it's like a 5-point test, do you speak X and Y, it's just a different type of burden of proof for someone who's from a very foreign culture. But that's, I think, that's...
Yeah. Well, the only thing I'd say for half of my ancestors is the one thing that they never ever said was, hey, this test is too hard. You know what I mean?
I wonder why, Lev.
Exactly. But anyway...
That joke landed flat. Anyways...
It landed flat
well,
because
Lev, you would know about subversion. I mean, that would... No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Lev.
No, again, I always say, everybody's going to find a niche to fill, and if not one group, there's going to be someone else who would be more than willing to fill any niche.
That's true, but I think, a society that is, I think, cohesive enough can maybe tolerate on the fringes a certain number of people who would be more... I know subversive's a buzzword, but let's say they can tolerate a sufficient amount of difference before the sort of pliable band snaps and sort of the social order is challenged. I think
but we may be misunderstanding ourselves here, because I'm not talking about the kind of different. I'm talking about difference as far as origin, as far as skin color, as far as any of those characteristics.
No, that's what I'm talking about as well. But I'm saying
I'm not talking about difference as far as how you act. I expect people to be on the same page as far as the level the level of culture they're at.
No, I know. I mean difference in general. I think the reason people are so sort of rigid nowadays is because we've gone so far away from what we've known as, largely European civilization, to the point where we don't have time for a lot of those sort of considerations, at least in my opinion. It seems that the window by which we can change the course of things is growing ever more shut, and it's I don't want to be told.
I'd argue most of us, a lot of us, have nothing but time. It's more about how we use the time. I think that's one of the biggest dangers today. I think, Alex, you'd agree with me here, is that people do have a sufficient amount of me time, but it's how they end up spending that me time, how they end up being just drained and useless noise, that's something that ends up killing off a good percentage of the soul.
Yeah, for sure. On a personal level, I think kind of because of that, you're also like Gio said, the possibilities for the political are dwindling as well. People are very far away from being active participants in the political process. Democracy, even if it works, it's a very faint mechanism for participation, and then people just play act politics online, and they engage in it it's I don't know, gamified politics, and they're not really affecting anything. So I think there has to be complete detachment from the current system. Just starve it. I don't really see the other way. Starve the institutions, starve everything you can see, completely decentralized, get your own money, get your own everything, and start building something bottom up. That's the only way anything's ever worked. So,
speaking about bottom up, I have to ask this, and I'm only asking because it's ZHP, and if it was literally anyone else, I'd never ask.
This is Gio.
This is Gio in the chat.
This is Gio kissing the ring. That's what.
Yeah,
this is.
I have to. Yes. Peter Thiel demanded I have to kiss the ring to my higher ups. So, Alex, what do you think about a man playfully, unharmingly, almost lovingly subordinating the wife with some spanking? What do you? That's what everyone was wondering here.
I have a feeling that's not how Zero phrased it.
Yeah, I know. Of course not.
Spanking, domestic violence. That's how people describe it nowadays. Nowadays, these crazy liberals, they're talking about domestic violence, when in fact, I think there's probably a role for some level of physical aggression in a relationship.
Oh, it's gonna get clipped by someone. Jesus Christ. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Come on.
Obviously, I'm not talking about, the 1960s films where, what was it? There's this New Zealand film, Once Were Warriors, where the guy just, sends his wife to the hospital and stuff like that.
Yeah.
One of these days, Alice. One of these days.
Yeah, make me some eggs, woman.
straight to the moon.
Joking about that. Yeah, exactly. It's the New Zealand version of Alice. So it's a tricky one, because essentially I feel like, that level of communication kind of comes in if there's a failure in the relationship. I really don't think that, in past generations, women were beaten to a pulp every day by their husbands. I think that was a dysfunction that happened. I know in Romania, it was, there were a few families in every neighborhood where that was a problem. They were typically the more dysfunctional people that paired up together. So there was alcoholism and stuff like that happening in these relationships as well. I don't think it was a sign of health for the relationship, but also I don't think it's a divorcing matter if that were to happen. Someone slaps someone.
It depends. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends. I don't know. I don't think it should be. I don't think Quran rules are necessarily a very good system. That's that reflects a certain.
Like, it doesn't have to be like Christopher Moltisanti level, like pimp slapping Adriana and like fucking dragging her by the neck out of the house. Like, that's kind of...
Yeah, that's a bit much, I think. But I think also maybe The Sopranos also kind of gives you a shine a light on a certain segment that's not necessarily, exemplary, even for the Italian-American community. Yeah. So,
but that's pretty common. Like, you flip out, like, you yell at each other, you smash.
But it is a very
cups,
it is a very tricky subject, because then, like, whenever it gets brought up, I always think of my mom, and like you think of your mom. Like, all of your moms, and imagine if that was something that was normalized, what exactly would happen? Not saying specifically that your dads would, but in general, just this idea that would be something in society that in some life your mom would experience.
Yeah, but oftentimes with Italians, it's the other way around. Like, the woman is the one who's fucking giving it out, Like,
got the rolling pins out.
Yeah. There's kind of slap fights. I admit, like, I've had one relationship in my past where I've been in a slap fight. It's Romania is tough, guys. So it's it happens.
Yeah. I would imagine Romania would be more like the fangs start coming out, and the.
Oh my God, love! Just stop! Just stop!
I want you to drink the blood of Jesus. Drink it all.
Okay, no. Oh God, no! I think where
that's from, by the way.
Your woman, like, if you're fucking punching her in the face and shit, that's like, there's something wrong with you. But like a light slap on the ass, I don't know. Like, that's.
Gio, do you know where that's from? That's from landoverbaptist.org. There was an audio clip of them. It said, like, secret recording of the Pope during Mass. They went, "I want you to drink the blood of Jesus."
I think I heard about this. That's like the American, like, evangelical, like, anti-papist, like, Romans the whore of Babylon type stuff. That's
exactly.
But
how did that
I don't know. Like, domestic violence is kind of like, I don't know what to say about it.
It's a
it's a sign of dysfunction, obviously. Like, it's clearly
a dysfunction.
Like,
I think
if you're
a good way to put it.
Like if you're blowing your sorry, cut you off, but like if you're a man and you're blowing your stack at your woman all the time, I think like there's something wrong there. But I think like once in a while, when you get so heated in the moment and like, I don't know, you fucking throw a glass at the wall. Like, I mean, that's like everyday reality for us Italians. You know what I mean? Like, it's they yell at you, you yell at them. I don't know. It's like.
Yelling's one thing, but I think if you're like beating women and stuff like that, I think
that's
it's
different.
It's like, to me, it's like if the end result of giving in to hedonism is like a nihilistic kind of pedophilic urge, then the end result of giving into complete anger and stuff like that is like beating women or like beating your children and shit like that.
I'll never forget that one tweet. It's like so legendary now, but it was this one like cam girl, and this guy responded. I think it may have been, I want to say it was either Mutant on Twitter, or it may have been like someone like Menace, I forget. It said like your face has like that Irish physiognomy that could like, that's perfect for like multiple years of domestic violence. Remember that one? Oh god. Like, that's terrible. That shit's terrible. Oh god.
Just iron-faced.
Someone could find that tweet and post it in the
I'll
chat.
have to leave soon as well with my.
Well, guys, then I think we're going to be concluding right now. I just want to say once again, thank you everybody
Look at
for
these
watching.
fucking people in the chat. Look at this. Alex is committing infidelity. Alex is. Does your husband allow? Listen. Does her husband allow her on live streams? I'm gonna fucking red pill. I'm gonna black pill you right now. Alex's husband set up her fucking gamer rig over there, her live stream gamer rig. So that's even more of a black pill, fellas. Not only does her husband condone this, he set up her live.
Wait, is Alex's husband on Twitter?
No, he isn't. He's not.
Thank
That's
God.
good. Yes.
Not a personality. No.
Yes.
Personality in our home, but a very, very private guy.
So
I hate to black pill the chat that way, but not only does he consent to this, he set up her gamer rig over there.
Doesn't know what's going on here.
all right, Gio, may the Christian Lord guide my hand against your Roman popery and allow me to finish this stream. Here we go. So patreon.com/breaktherules. Become a member today, or become a patron today. We're gonna do 2 debate streams on Patreon only coming up. Number 1, average centrist. You're gonna be teaming up with Jules's friend who was on our Discord, who was, you know who I'm talking about?
That guy.
I'm not teaming up with Gorbachev, am I?
No, against him.
Oh, against him. Good.
Yeah.
All right. I was gonna say.
Yes.
What is that guy about, Gorbachev? What is his
Gorbachev?
thing?
I don't know. Average centrist. How would
what
you?
he's about? He seems to be like. All I'm gonna say is that he seems to be media programmed. That's what I would say.
Okay, there you go.
Yes.
And then what's the other debate left?
You know what the other one is, Gio.
Oh, come on. I thought that was a joke. I don't have to actually do that.
No, I've never been more serious in my damn life, Gio. You're gonna do it.
Oh, it's not going to be good.
Yes, it will be.
I'm slowly getting him over to red pilling him on a certain question, but I guess
God.
like that debate would destroy it. No, for those who don't know, Lev wants me to debate my own father about the fucking state of Israel. I don't know why.
And we gotta bring in Easy Peasy as a referee.
Oh God. So those are Patreon exclusives.
We could have an Encyclopedia Dramatica article about the whole thing. It would give us good press.
Well,
Father versus son. So anyway, so tomorrow we are gonna. Oh yeah, Patreon first. Okay, so $20 patronage is going to give you a lot of beautiful magnets, wooden magnets from my father Alexander Polyakov. They are beautiful. Oh, all right. Alex, take care. Please follow Alex on Twitter at Kaschuta, Kaschuta.
Patreon. Is it Patreon, Alex?
Yes.
Yeah, I've got a Patreon.
Subversive
podcast. Woman who keeps telling people to exit as a Patreon. So
follow the Subversive podcast.
That's right.
You get to get early audio of all of the streams and our YouTube channel. So thank you, Alex, my good friend. Thank you once again. As always, please come back. We're going to set you up with either Alexander Bart or some other liberal. I don't know. Well, so
good.
Thank you very much, my friend.
You so much
thank
for
you.
having me, guys. Good one.
This is the BTR matchmaking stream. This is how...
And follow my YouTube channel.
That's right.
I just came out yesterday. Well, I have a few Patreon... not Patreon. I have a few... Well, I might come out with a Ko-Fi soon. But I have two Odyssey exclusives. One is about Rittenhouse. It was just basically the salt mine stream. Another is about coming out with another one about some like Vice incel thing. But I have another one about YouTube getting rid of the like button. But no, on my YouTube channel, I released number 6 of Style Talks podcast, me and Matthew the Stout, where we talk about art and aesthetics mostly. But this is different, where we're not like critiquing cringe. Although I'm going to announce for the first time, me and Matthew are planning a very special Style Talk episode just in time for Christmas present. We're going to be talking about neoliberal kitsch together. It's going to be very spicy. But this episode is a change of pace. We are going song for song, lyric for lyric, through the ISIS album Panopticon. So those of you who are metalheads out there in particular, you're going to love this one. We talk about Foucault, Agamben, the state of like modern metal music. It's really interesting and fascinating. Me and him, we both grew up with the band ISIS. So that's really interesting. It's almost 3 hours of content.
Nice.
It's amazing. So yeah, other than that, Patreon for Break the Rules.
Yeah, $30
on the
gives
$30
you
level.
Geo's beautiful prints and
1 of 5.
Yes, and $50.
But if they're small, I'll give you 2.
And $50 is going to give you a beautiful wooden sculpture. Well, it'll give you a custom magnet if you want that, or if you are a fan of Styx Hexenhammer 666, who is coming back with Jonathan Peugeot later on in December, but he may also come in earlier as well in December. I'm not going to reveal what that is yet because I don't want to jinx it, but we'll see what happens. By the way,
Styx?
Yes, Styx and somebody else who I'm not going to name right now, so you're just going to have to wait and see. But over here, okay, one of the people who we are going to have coming up in a couple of weeks is Josh Lekach. And check out this little video that he did. This is a shop in Venice Beach, California. Weird. Let's see. Hello? Because it still says that we're streaming right now. Not really sure what's going on.
Yeah, I see your hello in the chat.
Yeah. Well, it goes into the chat over here.
Did you put that in through the YouTube chat or
no? Through the OBS chat.
Like when I like.
Oh yeah, we're live. We're live. There we go. You guys see us, right? We're live. Okay, so this is going to be our conclusion. I wish. Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, jumped over. Okay, we're live now.
Yeah. Wow.
Damn.
Apparently that works. So that's good for me to know. So I just had to close.
Just in case shit fucks up. So yeah, for the future.
Yeah. So I just had to close OBS and open it back up again.
So what's happening? I was watching the Styx video about the guy that ran people over. They tried to say that Andy No was like lying about. That was bullshit. The guy clearly was some kind of black radical. I don't know.
He's pretty into it seems like. Yeah. It's just one of them where it's like, even if he was just tangentially attributed to, like, say, a right-wing group, like by throwing up an OK sign, people would be running wild calling him a fucking white supremacist.
Yeah.
But when he's like deep in the source of like fucking black nationalism or whatever, it's like, oh, whoa, what are we trying to insinuate here? It's like, come on.
Wait, Jim wants on. Who is Jim? Jim wants on. No, but yeah, the guy. I'm thinking of. Like, just because, like, I don't know, like, it seems. Lev, do you got your camera working or no?
I'm trying my best. Hold on, I got to figure this out. Don't worry about me. You can hear my audio.
All right, for the future, like, it's if you have to like take your camera off for in order for the stream, then that's all right.
No, no, it has nothing to do. I don't think it has anything to do with my camera. Why the stream went down. But anyway, and I do want to go to super chats as well.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it wouldn't be your camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Mr. Medicare wants on bullshit. Like, I'm sure he'll make us famous the way he made other people. Wouldn't it? Yeah, Daddy Jim. No, I don't see. Everyone says that. I think it's a meme now. Like Jim wants on, because like there's been like a few like Kino IBS moments where like people like Jim wants on. Then he, like, for example, he like fucking destroyed that AMOC. That was pretty fun. Like, I mean, I have criticisms of the current incarnation of Jim, but I think like when he was at his heyday, his peak, like there's moments where it's like Jim wants to come on, and then he comes on a live stream, just totally destroys people, and then Jim wants on, check Twitter. Fuck off, fallen student. You're fucking.
Hold
yeah,
on.
I'm just. You were going
What's going on?
You're forcing me to go to Twitter to check his fucking account, which I believe is Quarantine Coof, and is he got cancer or something? Apparently he has cancer.
Yeah,
That's why
so.
he's like older. He's like in his 40s than what people. He's got like one of those chronic like lymphoma type cancers.
I thought it was related to smoking because he's a smoker.
Yeah, it's got something. It's like a something to do. I think that's related to like his push for the Backstreet Boys World Tour. That's probably why. Man,
All right,
I can't spell
the
quarantine.
camera's back, sort of. I think I'm back now. There we go. You guys don't see me, but I see you. But but anyway, I wanted to actually. I mean, I could make like a virtual stream, whatever, of me, but I'm too tired for that shit right now. I want to go to super chats, and then we are going to end this.
Look at his tweet.
Yes.
Look at his tweet he just put out. They're absolutely seething, ass blasted about. Wait, let me go here. They're absolutely fucking seething, ass blasted about Andy No right now. The amount of ass blasted blue check marks is sort of surreal. Him reporting on the parade massacre has made them incredibly mad. My white privileges trending, no justice, no be. Yeah, that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna justify it and say that this guy was either running from evil, racist police people, MSM, mainstream media, literally out. They're targeting people, reporting on a guy that ran over 50 people. This is fucking.
Yeah,
Keith
they already
Olbermann.
tried that, Gio. They already tried to say that he was running from like a crime scene, like
And
he
it
was
was
being shot
bullshit.
at or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's absolutely bullshit. He did it on purpose, 100%.
Remember, report the street is misleading, political disinformation. Listen, I'm not the biggest fan of Candace Owens, but that's like, fuck you, Keith Olbermann. You're like, go back to fucking 2008 when you had any sort of relevance, you fucking, you old smackhead. Anyways.
Wait, I remember in Catholic school, one of the insults was Mama Luke. You Mama Luke.
Yeah, Mama. Yeah, that means like a stupid or like I forget the exact.
Although that was a
translation.
unit in I was about to say Heroes 2. That was a unit at Age of Empires to the Age of Kings. Do you remember?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, so it was.
Yeah, it was a good
Oh,
game.
man.
Oh, before we get to the super chats,
that was a wrestler too, Tony Mamaluke in ECW.
nice. Okay, before I get to the super chats, we are going to. We are also going to have. Let's see,
Super Chat.
James Cunningham, Glass Cake, joining us tomorrow, as well as Nina Paley, Mass Bastard, and we are also going to have Glink, and we are going to have Slush joining us tomorrow for the Turkey. And that's not all. We may have some surprise guests. I don't want to tell you who they are yet, but we are also going to have the following. Okay,
Give me a tip. Give me a hint.
No, because I don't know if maybe they're not going to be there, but maybe they will. So I'm not going to say it right now. I don't want to over promise. I don't want to over deliver. I just want to give like a slight indication that something's going down. Anyway, Tuesday, November 30th, we are going to have Jason Stapleton on, who, if you guys don't know who he is, he's this big libertarian guy who's all about self-sufficiency and making a lot of money. And what was it? Wealth, Power, and Influence. That's what his podcast is called. So I'm looking forward to becoming wealthier, more powerful, and more influential after speaking with him. Then we are going to have Josh Lakash, who I mentioned before. He is going to be coming on Thursday, December 2, and he has a show called The Wrong Opinion on Patreon.
How do you spell that?
Lekach. There's 74 other people who are following him. So, Gio, if you're not following him...
I know this guy. I mean, I've seen him around, but I've never... Oh, man, yeah, I've seen this guy. He fucking landed the interview with...
Sam Hyde.
Sam Hyde, but that general, the Trump general, what's his name?
Flynn.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And we are also going to have Catherine Brodsky joining us for that one. So I'm very excited about that. And we are going to have a much requested guest coming in on December 9th, Lord Miles Routledge.
Lord, who is that?
He's the guy who was in Afghanistan, the British guy. Remember the British student who was in Afghanistan?
No fucking way, really?
Yes.
You're not fucking with me, are you?
No, here, I'll show you the DM.
Oh my god! Does he have a Twitter?
Yeah, he does have a Twitter. Here's
Oh my
Yeah, he's
god!
like super Christian now as well, apparently.
Yeah, so Gio, you'd like that.
Oh my god! How do you spell his last name?
Well, it's the Twitter
Rutledge.
account is Lord Viscont. So
Is it M? Yeah, Lord.
VESCONTE. And again, just to prove to you that I'm not full of shit, although I do not have to, because you should already take it by honor. So here is just the DM.
Oh my god, Lord Mouse. Holy fuck. Whoa. Nice. I went to Afghanistan Holiday. Wow.
All right,
Holy crap.
Here's the DM. 3 p.m.
Look at his pin tweet. I had a few models and porn stars and OnlyFans people DM me asking to hook up. Here's one example. I wish them all the best, but deny premarital sex. It isn't Christian based. I regret all sexual encounters I've ever had in my atheist days. Waiting till this is gonna be a fucking fire interview right here. We're gonna talk about I don't know, white Sharia, Pan-Arabism. That's crazy.
Oh,
anyways.
Lord. And that is why Catherine Brodsky is coming in there to balance things out. And average centrist, I would love for you to come in as well if you can.
Wait, is it the same stream or different streams?
Same stream. That's going to be 3 p.m.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I think maybe we should have them on.
Oh, wait, sorry. So no, Catherine Brodsky's not coming in for that one. Sorry. Catherine Brodsky is coming in for the other one that we're going to have.
Lakash.
Yeah, Lakash. But average centrist, please come in for that one. I need some backup here when it comes to
I mean, I'm just more interested in his experiences and what led him to go from atheist, because I'm pretty sure he was atheist when he went over to Afghanistan. So obviously something must have happened to him that made him seem more Christian now. So it'd be interesting to get that story and see what's going on there.
Absolutely, it will. All right, guys, and that is not all. We are also going to have later on, let's see, we are going to have, well, I already mentioned Sticks and Peugeot, and we are also going to have Tishrei on. That is going to be Tuesday, December 14th. So that is what is coming up right now. But I really appreciate all the suggestions that people have been giving out. What I recommend you do is you join our Discord server. I'm going to post a link to that Discord server right now in the chat. So in the Discord server, you're going to see a little thing with a frog there called Guest Request. Get it? Because like the frogs do so guest request. If you go over there, give us suggestions for who you want to see on BTR, but the stipulations are that they have to be a very big person as far as we need to get more viewers. We got to grow this thing, and we grow it thanks to your help. Patreon.com/breaktherules. That is how you become a patron. Did you say Glink is on tomorrow at the same time as me? I love that guy. Yes, Glink may be coming in a little bit later, and Nina Paley's also going to be coming in a little bit later, but he should be there. So anyway, on to Super Chats. So we have, for the very first time...
Well,
yes.
I was serious. We got to find a way to get Nina Power on. That's top priority, right? For me,
yes.
anyways.
Nina Power and Nina Paley. I think that would be a good stream too. Anyway, what do you think? They disagree or agree? I mean,
no, they'd agree with a lot. I think that yeah, two Ninas, the Nina Power hour.
Yeah. So anyway, over here we got for the first time on BTR history, 15 shekels. We actually got some shekels from Etienne Marx.
Fuck.
TERF feminism is based on the same liberal individualism that birthed the trans movement. Aren't their principles causing what seeks to destroy them?
Wait, repeat the question?
TERF feminism is based on the same liberal individualism that birthed the trans movement. Aren't their principles causing what seeks to destroy them?
Yeah, in some respect. I would imagine that yes, in some respect, but the TERF feminists, what they are ironically doing is still trying to hold on to their womanhood and their female status, while also trying to simultaneously deny it in many different ways through their radical feminism.
Yeah, they seem to still retain, like, which I think is probably nowadays the sort of more anti-liberal position, which is at least holding on nominally to a form of essentialism. So I think that's probably, yeah, that's obviously a positive development. But then for the other things, I think they still hold on to a lot of like sacred cows of individual autonomy. I think but of course, no one turf is alike, obviously.
Well, Jeff, Gio, I'm going to call you Jeff now. Just imagine having, Jeff, that's a good peanut butter brand. Just imagine having Turf Island. So, Gio, imagine just having all these turf mommy GFs everywhere around you. That would be quite the experience. And we have
Sounds like a nightmare.
Sounds like a fucking nightmare. Yeah, that's true.
It's like that Louis C.K. joke about not girls gone wild, but imagine if it was women gone wild. You get a different mental picture in your head. So it's imagine, it's one of those things you entertain, base turf GF, but then I don't know. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, it reminds me of this rap song. It's supposed to mean two hard motherfuckers, but the song is somebody titled it Two Hard Mothers. So anyway, I'm not gonna get into this, scissor me timbers.
Were they trans by any chance?
No.
Scissor me timbers. Oh my God.
Anyway, we have another one from Etienne Marks, 15 shekels. Also, Geo, wokey pokey is a better term than Fauci ouchie.
Well, yeah, that could work. Yeah, that could work.
You do the wokey pokey and you turn yourself
Turf's
around.
Gone wild. It's fucking funny. Is ZHP still in the chat? Because a lot of people, I shouldn't even bring this up. I'm gonna probably get heebie-jeebies from this, but a lot of people, I remember they desperately wanted Radfem Hitler to look ugly, and but no, in real life, she hasn't doxed her face, but she's had, she's had images of herself, and she's not she actually looks like an attractive woman, which is kind of fucking crazy because it's the desperate hope is that she's some hideous, obese cow that's bitter, and so, but it's kind of funny how it kind of subverts people's expectations of what a turf is, especially such a prolific turf poster as Radfem Hitler. I don't know. It's really weird. Anyways, go ahead, Lev. I don't know the point I was making with that. I just think it's funny. I remember ZHP posted this picture of this obese black woman from Tinder, and it's
So, Sir Mittens over here says, imagine the bravery it takes for women to even go on this stream.
I know.
Imagine
true.
that. So Tux loves you. $5. Thank you so much, Tux, who says, here's some sneed with which to feed. Thank you very much, Tux. And another one from Tux loves you. Read my sneed. Already read. Thank you so much for the sneed.
Read my feel.
Yes.
Read my sneed. Feel my sneed.
Yes, exactly. So I think I think we're pretty much done. But there was something that I was remembered to. Let's see if I could find it over here. Let's see. I'm going to search for it right now really quickly. If it's going to come up. Oh, hold on. You remember? Okay. Hold on.
I'm real sneeded off right now.
Let's see. I am almost there. I just have to find. Man, I am not. Oh, okay. Damn it. Okay, hold on. Women seduce me in their homes. I'm looking for the translation of the rap lyrics. Hold on. 1 second. There is a
what the fuck?
Biggie Smalls. By the way, everybody subscribe. All right.
What are your thoughts about the world experiencing a Fourth Reich at the moment? Is there a Fourth Reich right now? This is the fakest and gayest Fourth Reich ever.
Well, is this why Fourth Reich? Do they mean the lockdown situation?
Oh, maybe, I don't know.
All right, here I found it. This is one of my favorites. So this is a translation into proper English of the Notorious B.I.G. song "One More Chance" remix from his album "Ready to Die," and it goes like this. As a general rule, I perform deviant sexual acts with women of all kinds, including but not limited to those with very limited intellect, nude magazine models, and prostitutes. I particularly enjoy sexual encounters with the latter group, as they are generally disappointed in the fact that they only receive penile intercourse and nothing more, unless, of course, they douche on a consistent basis. Although I am extremely unattractive, I am able to engage in these type of sexual acts with some regularity. Perhaps my sexuality is somehow related to my fancy and expensive jewelry. I enjoy playing my music loudly on my car stereo. Apparently, women also enjoy this because they become sexually aroused when they hear me driving. Oddly enough, when I visit the Native American reservations, some of the more sexually promiscuous Indian women attempt to seduce me in their homes. Their intent is to divest me of my earnings. Such actions are unacceptable. Understand this fact. You have neither my money nor my weapons. I suggest that you inform your peers that we engaged in violent sexual acts. Currently, I am rapping with my associates, the Junior Mafia. I'm having some difficulty understanding why you refuse to approach me. I am attempting to make eye contact with you through my expensive glasses, and as soon as you respond with a smile, I will approach you. I prefer to open the conversation with light banter about my wardrobe and jewelry. Then I like to discuss my collection of expensive cars. This is more than enough to convince you to have sexual intercourse with me. I am able to insert my penis further into you when I enter you from behind. Furthermore, you will be able to reach orgasm. I understand this to be a problem with your current sexual partner. He needn't be concerned about your whereabouts. Please phone him and inform him that you won't be home for a while. By the way, please sing the chorus of the song for me also. Your current love interest no longer wishes to hear your fabrications about the length of your member. After I had sexual intercourse with your woman, she became enlightened as to the proper way it is supposed to be performed, violently and immorally. It would be in your best interest to keep your woman away from me, as my sexual prowess is very strong. If you are unconvinced, ask Puff Daddy. Despite the fact that you attempted to win her doorstep with bags full of expensive clothes and a car, the lower-end model Mercedes-Benz which you financed by signing over your current vehicle, containing an expensive stereo and a cellular phone, your woman has contacted me through my pager, man, the date on this, indicating that we should rendezvous at midnight. You, on the other hand, jump from job to job, barely able to maintain payments on the Mercedes-Benz you purchased for your woman. Meanwhile, I continue to engage in sexual intercourse and commit lewd, ossulary acts with your woman. My only remaining option is to request that she leave my home and return to you because I have reached orgasm and no longer have a need for her presence. The ultimate decision rests with you. Whom do you choose as your sexual partner? I can take you on cruises around the world. I will dress you in the finest jewelry and footwear. You will be envied by women worldwide in your fine clothes and jewelry. There is a special place in my heart for beautiful women. I will defeat your man in an ulceration because he is effeminate. You will be dressed in the finest clothes on the runway of Paris. I will fly you to every state to shop for fine clothes and jewelry. You will enjoy sexual intercourse with me, and your man will be forced to pleasure himself through manual stimulation. What a life! I'll return you to LaGuardia.
Cup chair.
Exactly. I'll return you. I'll shout out to Doity Boy in his hotel cook chair.
Oh,
what a life! I'll return you to LaGuardia in time to catch your 8 o'clock flight. The timing is perfect because I have a scheduled date with a second woman who arrives at the same gate at 9 o'clock. I'll seduce her in the same way I seduced you. I rap well and am a positive reflection of my hometown. Not only am I a sexually deviant, misogynistic, immoral, wealthy male prostitute, but I also sit on the board of directors of the organization that governs others of my kind.
Is that it?
Well, the NAACP.
That's a literal translation
of Biggie Smalls' One More Chance remix from his album Ready to Die.
I think that sounds about right, actually.
It's kind of like... It's kind of like I don't know. The first few stanzas, it's clever and interesting, but then after a while, it's like I don't know. It just drops into autism. I don't know.
Speaking of autism, Tux loves you mentioned Alfred Alfer. Yeah, we were talking before about what exactly is going on in her life. Well, I wish her the best.
I wonder.
Even though she is a Jew hater, but anyway, maybe she'll get over that. Who knows? I did meet her. I got high with her back in 2016 at the Newgrounds office party. So anyway, guys, this is the end of the stream. No, I think she used to live in Philly, not New York. But anyway, this is the end of the stream. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am going to shut this down. Don't forget, tomorrow... Oh, in fact, let me just do this one thing before I shut this down, because I actually have to put the link to the Roast of Turkey Tom inside of the edit button. So while I'm doing that, any final thoughts, gentlemen, on the stream today?
No, I mean, it was pretty good. I'm just like distracted by Twitter right now. The fucking apparently Claire Lehman is A-okay with forcibly relocating people, and she's like, it's only indigenous people they're doing for quarantine, and she's getting ratioed. So yeah, that's your Quila, that's your based mommy rationalist IDWGF right there, Claire Lehman, who likes a bit of the she comes up from the bottom, if you know what I mean. That's in reference to her spat with BAP on Twitter, where she proclaims her love of a certain, she's a real come from behind kind of gal, if you know what I mean. So,
what was the reference that Tony Soprano said? In relation
yeah,
to
Vito.
Vito.
Yeah, Vito.
Though I'm not sure.
He's a come from behind kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, I'm trying to find where this thing is. Hold on 1 second. Tags, language. There should be a way to link. All right, whatever. Anyway, guys, listen. Go to the stream we're gonna have with Turkey Tom tomorrow. I know you will. Take care, everybody. Mwah.
God bless. Goodbye.
God bless and goodbye. And